Hello, all, and welcome back to AndroidSeekho Season 2. I'm your host, Rashid Wasan, accompanied by मोहम्मद फ़रहान एंड अज़ाज़ जो कि को होस्ट हैं हमारे। बेसिकली मैं थोड़ा अपना इंट्रोडक्शन देता चलूँ कि मैं खुद एक एंड्रॉयड डेवलपर रह चुका हूँ। आई स्टार्टेड माय जर्नी विद एंड्रॉयड डेवलपमेंट एंड आई गॉट माय फर्स्ट जॉब इन माय फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर एंड ऑल थैंक्स टू एंड्रॉयड एंड्रॉयड डेवलपमेंट एक्चुअली। तो आपको आइडिया हो गया होगा कि दिस सेशन इज़ गोइंग टू बी फन, इंफॉर्मेटिव एंड अमेजिंग। सो मेरा 3 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है फ्लटर डेवलपमेंट में। नाउ आई एम वर्किंग ऑन डेवऑप्स। सो दिस वाज माय ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्शन। और मैं अभी जीडीजी की टीम में काम कर रहा हूँ, जीडीजी लाइव पाकिस्तान की टीम में। एंड्रॉयड सीखो एक इनिशिएटिव है गूगल की तरफ से। इफ़ यू आर अ बिगिनर, जब आप शुरू करना चाहते हो अपनी जर्नी किसी भी टेक स्टैक में, तो इट इट इज़ ईजी टू गेट लॉस्ट। मतलब बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं, लाइक बंदा ओवरवेल्म हो जाता है बहुत सारी चीज़ों को देख के। सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज होता है कि एफिशिएंटली हमें किस तरह से एक रोड मैप को फॉर्म करना चाहिए। और जैसे मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया कि मैंने पहले सेमेस्टर में जॉब सिक्योर कर ली थी इन एंड्रॉयड डेवलपमेंट। तो 3 महीने इज़ रिलेटिवली लेस टाइम एंड आई वाज़ द स्टूडेंट ऑफ फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर। सो इट वाज़ ऑल अबाउट प्रॉपर रोड मैप जो कि मुझे मिला था। तो एफिशिएंटली मैंने वो चीज़ें सीखी। एंड्रॉयड सीखो इज ऑल अबाउट दैट। इफ यू आर एन एब्सोल्यूट बिगिनर, क्योंकि एंड्रॉयड भी गूगल की तरफ से है। गूगल ने ही ये इनिशिएटिव लॉन्च किया है पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए जो कि एंड्रॉयड सीखना चाहते हैं इन नो नॉनसेंस मैनर। ठीक है, एक प्रॉपर मैनर में फ्रॉम वेरी स्क्रैच। तो दिस वाज अबाउट एंड्रॉयड सीखो। और ये इवेंट ऑर्गेनाइज करवा रहा है जीडीजी लाइव पाकिस्तान। जीडीजी लाइव पाकिस्तान इज कम्युनिटी ऑफ फ्रीलांसर्स, डेवलपर्स एंड ऑल टाइप्स ऑफ लर्नर्स जो कि टेक्नोलॉजी सीखना चाहते हैं एंड एंटरप्रेन्योर्स से कुछ सीखना चाहते हैं। तो जीडीजी लाइव believes in creating very high impact and focusing on quality live events. So yeah, all about it. So I would now move on to Farhan. Farhan, could you please continue with the agenda of this session?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, guys. I'm myself Mohammed Farhan, and I'm hosting with Rashid as a co-host and with Ali Azaz. So I am also an Android developer with over 5 years of experience in the industry, and I'm also a co-team member of GDG Live Pakistan. So moving forward for the today topics, we have the welcoming note agenda review, which will be a 10-minute talks. उसके बाद हमारे पास पहला जो स्पीकर है वो हमारे पास है कार्लोस मोटा। सो वो इंट्रोडक्शन टू उनके कॉटलिन के जेट पैक कंपोज के बारे में होगा सब कुछ। उसके बाद हमारी जो थर्ड टॉक है वो बेसिकली मैं ही कहूँगा कि हमारा एंड्रॉयड जो सीखो सीज़न 2 है उसका प्रोसेस क्या है और उसको हमने कंप्लीट कैसे करना है सब कुछ। और उसके बाद फिर हम कंटिन्यू मूविंग फॉरवर्ड वी हैव अली असास जो कि जेट पैक कंपोज के पाथवेज को स्टार्ट करेंगे और उसके बाद उनको ज्वाइन करेंगे अब्दुल बासित, उनको फर्दर करेंगे। आखिर में हम लोग एक कि आप जेट पैक कंपोज से हम क्या क्या कर सकते हैं और चीज़ें लाइक टीवी जब हम जेट पैक कंपोज को मैं खालिद हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे। सो so moving forward, for the first talk was Carlos. Okay, so Carlos actually he is a very busy schedule, so he didn't join us today as a live, but he sent us their live stream. So Carlos is an Android GD and GDG Cumbria organizer, and yeah, a Kotlin evangelist. He can easily be spotted either working on Android applications written in Kotlin, developing them along with Kotlin multi-platform. He loves to share his knowledge with others either by giving talks, teaching, or writing. So moving forward, so we would like to start the Carlos talk. Okay.
Let me start by saying thank you to GDG Pakistan to having me here and to organize these great events. These events are really important to help us developers to know more about technology. And of course, let me also thank you that's on the other side of the screen to taking the time to learn more about, in this case, Jetpack Compose. I really hope that after this talk and the other talks, You're going to be really thrilled and you're going to create your first app with Compose. And I hope to see you online asking more questions and diving into the subject. So, hello and welcome to this composable new world. My name is Carlos Mota, I'm from Portugal and you can find me at Seekho S2. I'm an Android GDE and I've been developing for Android for the past 12 years. And for the past 4 I've been working with also with Kotlin multi-platform. I've been writing at Codecodev. I want to have one day a podcast and I love to travel, photography and running. And of course, I hope that in the near future we'll be able to be in person talking about technology and hopefully about Compose. I've created a couple of materials for these talks. All the slides are available on my speaker deck. I've created a project that you can follow along, a project already built with Compose. And I've also created a code lab if you want to go step by step on how to create your first application with Compose. Feel free to check them out. Let's start with a brief history of Android time. So Android was released a couple of years ago, in 2008 at the end, and it was version 1.0. And since then, we've been seeing each year a lot of improvements, a lot of great improvements. So let's be more present. We had the release of Android Studio, we had Art, we had Recycler View, we had the constrained layout, and we had Kotlin. We moved from Java to Kotlin in 2017. After that, we had Arc components, and of course we had a lot of libraries and releases in between, but the most important one, at least for me at this moment, is Jetpack Compose, which was released in 2021, and almost immediately that it saw its stable version, a lot of developers flooded the Twitter stream, the Twitterverse, and started sharing projects that they were using Compose and they were really happy with it. And since then, we've been seeing companies, developers, all moving towards Compose and being really happy with the result. We're currently on version 1.4.7, which is compatible with Kotlin 1.8.21. And I'm saying here that this is the version of Compose compiler, and you're going to understand why later on this talk. So let's talk a bit about Compose. If you're going to Google website, you're going to see buzzwords like it's less code that you need to write, it's intuitive, it makes your development faster, it's really powerful. And all of this is true. And I've added a couple of more that I feel that it's important, which is small APKs, it's Kotlin, it's intuitive, it's open source, it's unbundled from the OS, it's a modern framework, and you're going to use declarative UI. And this is really important because this is a different paradigm that we're typically not used to it, at least on mobile. And both Android and iOS, they moved from declarative UI, from imperative UI to declarative UI. So let's see an example. Imagine that you want to implement a list. So nowadays, or before XML, because nowadays it's Compose, if you want to have this view, you need to do something like this. You create an activity, you create an XML for that activity, you create a fragment, you create an XML for that fragment, you create a recycler view, you create the adapter, and then you create the corresponding XML for those adapters. 7 steps to create a list that perhaps 95% of all apps out there have. And these 7 steps are translated in at least 5 files and more than 200 lines of codes that you need to write just to have a basic list. And of course, every time that we need to write code, there is a higher probability that we're adding bugs. So what we want to do is write less code as possible, do many features as possible, and hopefully don't have any bugs in the process. So with the current implementation, or once again with XML implementation, it's time consuming, error prone, you need to create several files, your APK or your app bundle is going to be bigger, and you've got all those coupled components. There's always those fights where the one-click listener should be. If it should be on the adapter, if it should be on the fragment, if it should be on the XML. There's a lot of things that create discussion, and there are different arguments for both solutions. Now imagine, and let's grab here an exercise that I have a text view, a text on my computer, and I want it to say hello world. And this is a really nice story because they changed a lot throughout the years. So in the beginning, you had called find view by ID and you need to cast it to text view. and then you access the text property and say hello world. Then we had an amazing library called Butterknife that uses the annotation processor, and you just need to call the bind view with the ID, and you could just access to that by calling the name that you declared, in this case greetings, and then the text. Afterwards, Google decided that text view wasn't needed to be cast, and you could do something similar, smaller like this. Afterwards, we switched to Kotlin. We had the synthetics, and the synthetics allowed that you could import a class version of the XML file, and you could have direct access to the IDs of the components. This was then deprecated, and now we have view bindings. So in order to access your XML, you can do something like this. You've got your fragment view binding, and you can access the ID and then the text property in order to change the text. Now, let's dive into this text view. This text view extends view.java. And if you go to the image view and make the same exercise, it will also extend view.java, and view group, and linear layout, and the relative layout, and all of these layouts and views will extend the base component view.java that has these 100 lines of code. So imagine the poor developer that needs to make any change on this view.java and the stress that he or she might feel when a change needs to be made, because it's going to affect all the files, all the components. So with this amount of lines of code, it makes it really difficult to scale, it's really hard to maintain. Every change that it's made on view.java can be reflected on a lot of components. And of course, this ends up to be bundled to the operating system and to the OEM's version of the implementation of these components. So what you want to have with Compose is to be unbundled from platform releases. So imagine that a new feature for the UI was released on Android 13. I want to be able to use it on Android 11 or Android 10 without having to use, for instance, the support library. We want to have this on the same library that we're using. We also wanted to make it faster to implement new designs, new components, and of course clarify who owns what, so where that click list should really be. I was talking about declarative UI. It's really important to make the distinguish between both, because the paradigm switches and it's really difficult on the beginning to get used to declarative UI. So imperative UI is Java or Kotlin code, and you've got the XML for layouts, attributes and styles. Declarative UI, it's UI as a function, and you've got only Kotlin code. So you can see imperative UI as how it should happen and declarative UI on what should happen. But let's see an example. Imagine that depending on the number of mails that you have in your inbox that weren't read, you want to show a paper, the badge number, and the fire if you really have a lot of emails that weren't read. So imagine that you want to do this imperative UI, you need to do all of these if and else clauses, and let's go really quick by these conditions. So if the count is more than 0 and you don't have a badge, you add a badge. If the count is 0 and you do have a badge, you remove the badge. If the count is more than 99 and you don't have fire, you add fire and set the text. If the count is less than 99 and you do have fire, you remove the fire. So if the count is bigger than 0 and you don't have a paper, you add a paper. If the count is 0 and you do have a paper, you remove the paper. If the count is less than 99, you just set the badge to be the number of emails that aren't read. So we need to do all of this if and else to add or remove things depending on the exact number of emails that aren't read. If you want to do this with Compose or with declarative UI, it's way simple. You just need a function that will add or remove, or in this case, it will only add if that value is bigger than 99 or bigger than 0. So on every change, it's basically just going to iterate and show or not show a component if it needs to be shown. So you don't need to be adding and removing things. The function needs to always iterate and always show those things if the value is, it corresponds to that specific value. So I'm guessing that we have a clear winner here. It's declarative UI, right? And before we dive in more about Compose, let me just show you how it's structured. So when you're talking about Jetpack Compose, we're talking about animation, foundation, material, material 3, UI, runtime, and compiler libraries. So we can group them into a stack, and we've got compiler and runtime on bottom, and we've got what we can call of Compose UI toolkit, which is Android specific here. Compose UI, Foundation, Material 3, Material, and Animation. The compiler, as the name indicates, it transforms composables into UI. It doesn't use the annotation processor, so it's really fast. And it's written in Kotlin, and of course, if you want to dive into the code, it's open source, and if you have trouble sleeping at night, it's a really good place to spend some time reading and trying to understand how it works. The runtime is platform agnostic. It doesn't know what Android or UI is, and basically it's a tree management solution. And then we've got the Android specific part, this Compose UI toolkit, that has libraries like the animation for creating animations, the material tree and material for the material design, the foundation that has the basic components like column, text, images, and so on, and UI, which handles the input management. And of course, this is also important for me to show you that we've got Compose for Android, but we also have it for desktop, for the web, for the iOS. You just need to change the Compose UI toolkit to any other of these platforms. So it's also really thrilled to tell you that we also have Compose multi-platform that currently targets iOS, that targets web, that targets desktop, and of course Android, that you can use and share your code across all of these platforms. So should I switch to Compose? I'm guessing that's the question that you're all asking. All of these apps are moving towards Compose. This doesn't mean that they are 100% in Compose. This means that when there's a new feature, they're going to use Compose for development. Or if there is some bug, or if there's some part of the app that needs to be refactored, this code is being now done in Compose. Twitter is more than happy with it. Great productivity, less bugs. Just to show you a simple case, there is this project Tivo, which was created by Chris Baines, and when he migrated from XML to Compose, it took some metrics along the way. So the APK size were less 46%, which is great because imagine that you don't have a really good internet connection, you're going to update and download your app faster. The method count reduced in 17%. The number of lines necessary to implement this app were reduced, and the build speed of compiling your project decreased by 29%. So less compilation time, so it means that you can be focused more time and without having any distraction. So should I switch to Compose? Yes, it's the future. We're all moving towards Compose, and you're next. A couple of Compose ready libraries. The Componists are libraries that are maintained by Google and give you a lot of functionalities outside of the box. You've got pull to refresh, you've got swipes, you've got permissions, everything is handled. And the really cool thing here is, for instance, insets give you, imagine on Android 10, we had the launch of the keyboard animations that you could drag and open the keyboard, and all of that is available now on previous versions thanks to Compose. Code already Compose, Lottie, and of course another libraries are switching to Compose and giving this Compose support. How to start? Quite easy. You can just on your project go and create empty Compose activity or create a new project with it. You need to define the min SDK as 21, define the JVM target as 1.8, enable Compose, and of course define the Compose options so you can define the compiler that you're going to use. After that, you just need to add the Compose libraries. Typically they start at Compose Material, Compose UI, in this case Activity Compose, and you're ready to start working with Compose. So let's see a couple of examples. Imagine that we want to add text. Without Compose, you need to create your XML, create a component called text view, and set the text there as hello world. And then if you want to change this value, you need to access the text property and say that it's going to be hello Android. With compose, just need to have a composable and call it text and with the text that you want. If you want to change it, just change the string that you're sending. You can also create a function. For this, you're going to use the keyword add composable. It's important to mention that if you open the text function, it says add composable because it's compose. You need to receive this parameter, this name, and every time that greeting is called, it's going to show this on the screen the text that you sent. In this case, it was Android. So what happens here, once again, you need to add this annotation, you define the function, it receives a parameter, and this parameter is used to add the text to the screen. And of course, this can only be done on Kotlin. Now imagine that you want to show below hello world the number of coffees that you take. You need to create linear layout and add a text view. In case of Compose, to do this, you cannot just do this, because every time that you write with Compose, it's going to be added on the top left corner. So in order to have them stacked, you need to use a column, because you want to have them stacked vertically. Of course, you could also have a row, and on that case, you'd have them stacked horizontally. And you can also modify a lot of things on this column. You can define a modifier, in this case, set a color for the background of your column. You could say that the size of this column is going to be the entire screen, and in this case, the background is affected to the entire screen. You can add a padding, or you can just align these components to the center of the screen. These modifiers allow you to do the same things that you do on XML, but now as a function. Of course, you can also change the color of the text, and imagine that you also want to add an image. So without Compose, you would use image view for this. With Compose, you just need to call the composable image for this. You use the painter resource, you send the ID of the icon, and it's mandatory that you also define the content description. This having accessibility in mind, so you need to define what's that image there. Now imagine that you want to add a button. Without Compose, we just add a button. And of course, with Compose, you just call the composable button. And inside of it, you add the text that you want to add. So you've got here the button, and you've got the composable text. Now imagine that you want to change the state. So every time that you click on plus, you're going to increment the number of coffees. So without Compose, you need to add a set on click listener, you add a count variable, and you keep updating that number. And of course, you're keeping calling the same function on the screen. With Compose, this is a bit different, and this is really important. So first, you still have this count variable, but you're going to use a special function called remember. And you're going to say that the content of this remember, it's a state that's always going to change because you're always clicking on it, and initial value is going to be 0. This remember is important because every time that you click on the button, you want the function greeting to be called again. And if you don't use remember, what will happen is the count value is going to always be the same. So this remember will keep track of the previous number, and so when you click on the function to be redesigned, it will just use the number that it's familiar with and not going to assign a new one. So when you click on the button, the count value is going to be the previous one plus 1. Since we used remember, it's going to know which was the previous one, and when the function will redraw, it will show you the right number. I hope you've really enjoyed this Compose talk. There are a lot more to talk about Compose. I've got here a couple of resources that you can dive in to know more about the code samples. Google has a set of projects for Compose, built-in applications that you can use as showcase. There is also a list of applications of libraries that you can check. There is the Compose catalog. JetBrains also has a couple of projects with Compose, and of course the community here, it's always showing new projects, so feel free to check these 3 authors.
Okay, so thank you, Carlos, for sharing this. इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा knowledge थी और like for the video. So okay, for moving forward in the event, वी हैव अ टॉपिक कि हम एंड्रॉयड सीखो के क्या प्रोसेस क्या है, हम इसको स्टार्ट कैसे करेंगे, इसमें हमें करना क्या क्या है। सो तो ओके, सो आई विल बी शेयरिंग माय स्क्रीन फॉर दैट। ओके, लेट मी शेयर द स्क्रीन। ओके, so is my screen is visible to all of you? Can you write on the chat कि मेरी स्क्रीन शेयर हो गई है? या ओके, सो ओके, सो एंड्रॉयड सीखो सीजन 2 जो है बिल्कुल जैसे जिसने एंड्रॉयड सीखो 1 अटेंड किया होगा तो उन सब के लिए एंड्रॉयड सीखो 2 बिल्कुल वैसी ही है, लेकिन थोड़ी सी चेंजेस इसमें इस दफ़ा आई हैं। ओके, सो sorry for that. Actually, I'm suffering from sore throat and little temperature. Okay, so एंड्रॉयड सीखो में क्या है, तो हमारे पास कुछ स्टेप्स हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हमें जो है एंड्रॉयड सीखो का जो है लिंक जो भी है हमें इसमें एंड्रॉयड सीखो में रजिस्टर करना होगा। देख लेते हैं। ओके, सो हमारे पास एक रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म है फॉर एंड्रॉयड सीखो इवेंट। अगर हमें सबसे पहले इसमें रजिस्ट्रेशन करनी है सिंपल। उसके बाद हमें जो है आफ्टर रजिस्ट्रेशन हमें मेक श्योर करनी होगी कि हमारी जो है गूगल डेवलपर प्रोफाइल बनी हुई हो। गूगल डेवलपर प्रोफाइल इटसेल्फ एक प्रोफाइल है डेवलपर्स की जहाँ गूगल की तरफ से, जहाँ पे आप जो है अपनी प्रोफाइल बना सकते हैं। आप उसमें जो है चीज़ें रन करेंगे तो आपको बैचेस मिलते हैं। आप इवेंट्स गूगल से ज्वाइन करते हैं तो उसमें आपको बैचेस मिलते हैं। और ऑल्सो यू कैन यूज़ इट एज अ योर रेज्यूमे फॉर, और यू कैन ऑल्सो ऐड इन योर रेज्यूमे। So it's like an achievement. There have been the badges actually showing your achievement kind of. So आप वहाँ पे सब चीज़ें डाल सकते हैं। तो एक्चुअली आई डोंट नो, ये वैसे नहीं खुल रहा जैसे खुलता है। खैर, आप जब जो है अपनी गूगल डेवलपर की प्रोफाइल आप बना लेंगे पहले, तो उसके बाद क्या करना है, उसके बाद जब आप कर लेंगे तो अगर आपके पास कोई क्यूरीज है या कोई कुछ भी क्वेश्चंस हैं तो उसके लिए आप जो है हमारा स्लैक चैनल ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं, विच इज़ GDG लाइव पाकिस्तान। इस चैनल है एंड्रॉयड सीखो सीजन 2 का। और उसके बाद आपने क्या करना है, अच्छा आपके पास जो है पाथवेज दिए हुए हैं। मैं आपको लिस्ट दिखा देता हूँ पाथवेज की। ये हमारी पाथवेज है। हमारे पास शुरू के पाथवेज हैं जो कि एंड्रॉयड सीखो में हैं, और इनके इंडिविजुअली बैचेस जो हैं वो यहाँ पे हैं। सो आपको ये पाथवेज कंप्लीट करने हैं, और जब आप पाथवेज को कंप्लीट करेंगे तो आपको बैचेस मिलेंगे, और ये बैचेस आपकी गूगल डेवलपर प्रोफाइल के पेज में जाके शो होंगे। आपको टोटल 5 पाथवेज करने हैं। आपके पास पहला पाथवे है, दूसरा पाथवे है बिल्डिंग एन ऐप UI, उसमें 3 बैचेस हैं, 3 हैं, और 4 में 3 हैं, और 5 में 2 है। जब आप ये पाँचों पाथवेज कर लेंगे तो आपको 14 बैचेस रिसीव्ड होंगे, और आपकी जो है गूगल डेवलपर के प्रोफाइल में होगा। अच्छा, इस इवेंट की ड्यूरेशन जो है वो जो है जून 2 तक, आप जून 2 से पहले आपने सब कुछ करना है कंप्लीट। उसके बाद अगर आप जून 2 के बाद आप जब भी आप करेंगे तो उसका कुछ भी रिसीव नहीं होगा। लाइक अगर आपने आफ्टर जून 2 के बाद किया तो उसके बाद आपको कंसिडर नहीं किया जाएगा। तो अच्छा, उसके बाद जब आप अपने कंप्लीट कर लेंगे तो आफ्टर आफ्टर जून 2 आपको एक कंप्लीशन फॉर्म की ईमेल आएगी, जो कि गूगल की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की जो होंगे एंड्रॉयड सीखो जो होस्ट कर रहे हैं उनकी तरफ से आपको उसको जो है फिल करके फॉर्म होगा, वो फिल करके आपको रिटर्न करना होगा। कि बेसिकली वो आपकी प्रोफाइल देखेंगे, आपने एंड्रॉयड सीखो की अपडेट कर लिया है, आपके पास 14 बैचेस हैं एंड्रॉयड आपके गूगल डेवलपर प्रोफाइल में, और सब कुछ। तो आपको वो फॉर्म देना पड़ेगा। उसके बाद आपको एक ईमेल दूसरी आएगी, वो होगी वर्चुअल पेज की। वर्चुअल पेज भी आपको आफ्टर जून 2 ही होगी, और वो आपको जो है आ जाएगी ईमेल, जो जो सेलेक्ट होंगे, जिन जिन ने जून 2 से पहले कर लिया होगा, जो जो एलिजिबल होंगे। और इसको करने के बाद वर्चुअल पेज के बाद अगर आप जब कंप्लीट कर लेंगे, लास्ट दफ़ा आई थिंक 70% आपकी आपको जो है 70% आपकी पासिंग मार्क्स थे आपके वर्चुअल केस के अंदर। इस दफ़ा जो है आपको ईमेल नहीं पता चल जाएगा कि कितना है। तो इसके बाद जब आप वो पास कर लेंगे तो आपको जो है आप एलिजिबल हो जाएंगे फॉर क्विज़ेस के लिए। और लास्टली फॉर आप सेलिब्रेट कर सकते हैं एंड्रॉयड 6 के लिए। और यू नो के जिन जिनके पास एंड्रॉइड सीखो के सीज़न 1 से आया था वो सीज़न 2 के भी आ सकते हैं। अच्छा, okay, so this is all the process from my side. Okay, let me share my slide. Okay, so sorry for that. Okay, so for the next talk, we have Ali Azaz. Okay, so Ali, can you join us?
Yeah, hello guys, I'm Aliza Salam. Uh, am I audible? Farhan, am I audible?
Yes, Ali, you are. Okay.
Hello. Can anyone tell me, am I audible right now or not?
Yes, Ali, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, my name is Aliza Salam, and most of you already knows me. I'm also working as an Android application developer, and let me share my slides here. Okay. Okay. Just give me a while. Yeah, maybe my screen is visible right now. Yes. Okay. Uh, before my talk, there was a Carlos, and Carlos told you each and everything about the compose, how you can start the compose, how you can do it. And now in my talk, we are going to know about the like a sort of workshop it would be, but in this talk you would learn how to code with compose, why the Jetpack compose, what is material, and all those stuff, and also having the state hoisting, and all those stuff. So we have some key elements that I have mentioned here. They are about in this talk. We are going to tell about what is the composable, also the basic of the compose with the state management, and how the Kotlin is actually using in compose. So let me clear out one thing. If you are working in a Kotlin, that is really great. You can easily get into the compose. If you are not doing Kotlin, then the Kotlin is really easy. So you can easily tune to the Kotlin. If you are an iOS developer, you can easily move towards the Kotlin. If you are a Java developer who is working in a Java, then you can easily move towards Kotlin. So in the Kotlin, it's like the Kotlin have the few elements, the few things that are extensively used in the compose, and you have to know before starting compose. So that's what we are going to discuss in our talk. So here is my the short intro. I'm Aliza Salam. I'm working in the V1 Health right now, having an experience of 8 years around in the Android technology. And for the Android native, I have an experience of almost 7 years. I'm also an open source contributor, having contributed into the multiple open source projects. Also having two of my own Android libraries starting right now that is using by the many developers in the worldwide. Also, my project is also selected for the Google Dev Library. So here are my few of the intro, and you can also tune to me or to connect with me on my socials. The GitHub is not a social here, but yeah, you can connect me. You can follow me there. I also have a Twitter account here, and also my articles. I'm also a technical writer. So you can also go toward my Medium page and to check out my articles. Also give your reviews, your comments, and so on. So let's jump into the compose. So we have a workshop, like I'm going to do a little bit of workshop, but before the workshop, you have to know what is like why we are going toward it. So before the workshop, these are the few elements that have to know or that have to be spread out to the audience. Yeah. So what is compose? Why it's important to UIW? And we already the Carlos already told us it's about the modern UI toolkit, और जो कि बिल्कुल that is really different from the XML. XML के अंदर we were doing a lot of we were writing a lot of code. हम बहुत सारा कोड लिखते थे, and then after that there is a view appeared और फिर उसके अंदर view होता था. But now through the declarative approach you can directly create a UI, or even आपको इतनी excitement, you would be really excited after writing a Jetpack Compose code, क्योंकि आपके पास तमाम चीज़ें declarative के अंदर आपके पास like you have an image. If you want to show the image, you don't have to write the image tag and so on. Directly you have the image, you can directly call the image, and image you can pass the resources. अब उसमें कितना मुश्किल होता था, इट वॉज वेरी डिफिकल्ट कि आप जो है एक रिसोर्स पहले लेते थे, आप ड्रॉएबल का एक रिसोर्स बनाते थे एंड देन पास टू वर्ड इन द एसआरसी ऑफ द इमेज व्यू. बट हियर इट्स सो मच इजी, जो अब अभी हम सब देखने वाले हैं. तो ये सब चीज़ें. ओके, सो द इम्पॉर्टेंट की एलिमेंट्स दैट हैव टू कीप इन माइंड बिफोर स्टार्टिंग अ कंपोज. कुछ एलिमेंट्स आपने बहुत एक कुछ माइंड अप करने बिफोर लाइक गोइंग डिग इनटू द कंपोज. राइट नाउ वी हैव द annotations हमारे पास है, हमारे पास component building है, and then the third we have the Kotlin fundamentals, that what I told you कि कुछ Kotlin की चीज़ें बहुत important है that we have to know while digging into the compose. So check up करते हैं कि है क्या क्या चीज़ें ये. Okay, so when we move toward the annotations, so annotations हमारे पास जो mainly annotations you already know about, there are the multiple annotations, लेकिन हमारे पास जो main annotation जो आप extensively देख रहे होंगे Jetpack Compose के अंदर there are the composable and the preview. The composable is actually defines that कि जिस function के ऊपर composable लग जाता है, it means that that element or that function would generate the UI, or that is used for the UI purposes. तो ये आप easily define करते हो कि ये composable है. The preview defines that कि preview, क्योंकि आप जब हम जब अपने कोडिंग पे आएंगे, एंड्रॉइड स्टूडियो पे आएंगे, हम देखेंगे कि हमारे पास साइड जो है एक हमारे पास लेआउट इंस्पेक्टर होता है जिसके अंदर पूरा लेआउट आ रहा होता है. प्रीव्यू डिफाइंस दैट कि जो भी आप यहाँ काम कर रहे हो वो डायरेक्टली आपके पास प्रीव्यू भी होता है फ्रॉम द यूआई पर्सपेक्टिव. इट्स नॉट अबाउट द एंड्रॉइड पर्सपेक्टिव, क्योंकि अगर आप फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर यूजिंग अ टोस्ट, यू आर यूजिंग सम डिफरेंट थिंग, तो वो आपको वहाँ पे शो नहीं होगी, बट या ऑल द यूआई एलिमेंट्स वुड बी showing there. So annotations are really much important. The another one is about the component building. We as being a developer, I can say, क्योंकि मैं ये बात ये समझ रहा हूँ और ये मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि all of the people here, most of the people here are the developers. हमें पता है कि like we have to write a clean code, we have to make our code, the components of our code, ताकि वो easily हम उसे reuse कर सकें in future projects, और हम उसे multiple जगहों पे use कर सकें. So through we have the component building right now. हम क्या करते हैं, like we can create a multiple components. हमारे पास empty compose activity का जैसे आप देखें composable empty compose activity का मैंने एक component बनाया. That component contains a text. तो उसके अंदर जो भी हमारे पास चीजें मैं define कर दूँ. अब ये empty compose activity है, I can place this one in a global file, एक मैं कहीं file में कर देता हूँ, and then I can use this component in all over my application. मैं use कर सकता हूँ, मैं इसे उठा के कहीं और लेके जा सकता हूँ. All those stuff can be easily done through the composable component. Then we have the Kotlin fundamentals, जो बहुत really important है before starting a Kotlin, before starting a Jetpack Compose actually. तो हमारे पास like we have the classes, we already knows about what are the class, we knows about the generics, कि हम generics क्या होता है, जैसे मैं list और string दिया, generics actually defines that कि हमारे पास हम एक generic code लिखे होते हैं. I'd like about the list it would be the list of the string, it would be the list of the integers, it would be the list of some model कि आप इसमें कोई class pass कर दोगे, and then that also works as like a generic. I know कि थोड़ी सी it's like a beginner sort of stuff, but because we also have a lot of the people here who are actually going towards the Kotlin and the Compose, or they are going to start, तो उनके लिए ये बहुत important है. Then we have the Lambda. I can say that जितने भी हमारे पास developers हैं, Lambda से थोड़ा सा Lambda and the higher order functions, they are a little much frightened or afraid of it कि Lambda क्या चीज़ है और higher order function क्या चीज़ है, so on. So थोड़ा सा dig into करता हूँ, मैं समझाता हूँ कि ये हम क्यों ज़रूरी है ये सब चीज़ें पढ़ना for the Jetpack Compose. तो पहले देखते हैं कि Lambda हमारे पास we already knows about there are the anonymous function. Anonymous function means जिसका function की कोई आप कोई define नहीं करते, like function name कुछ define नहीं कर रहे. There is about the quotations in which you are writing your code, that is called the anonymous function. When you move toward the higher order function, so higher order function is also the lambda is also goes into the higher order function. And here in the higher order function, you have when like there are the multiple scenarios that where you are passing a function into the function. जो हमारे पास अगर if the people are here they knows about the callback, so callback के सिनेरियो को ज्यादातर जो है वो हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शन से भी डील करा जा रहा होता है कि हम उसे कॉलबैक खत्म करके हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शन की तरफ मूव ऑन हो जाए उस चीज को, ताकि हमारा पूरा जो है एक फंक्शन जो हमने कॉल करना है वो डायरेक्टली हम फंक्शन पैरामीटर में पास कर सकते हैं। हम फंक्शन कैन रिटर्न अ फंक्शन, इस तरीके की हम चीजें कर सकते हैं। और इसकी थोड़ी सी एग्जांपल्स देखते हैं हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शन की कि ये होता क्या है। ठीक है, सो वी हैव हियर the Kotlin playground, और ये Kotlin में हमारे पास एंड्रॉइड डेवलपर्स हैं Kotlin playground का एक environment दिया है where you can go, और आप जाके वहाँ पे चेक आउट कर सकते हैं कि आप वहाँ पे जाके Kotlin के ऊपर कोड लिख सकते हैं without having any IDE, और आप जो है ना वहाँ पे कर सकते हैं। So let's move toward that environment here. Okay, so let me find out where this one. Okay, so yeah, we have here. Okay, so now we have here a little bit of, मैंने थोड़ी सी एक डिफाइन करा है कि हम किस तरीके से जो है ना हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शंस को डील कर रहे हैं। द फर्स्ट अगर आप जाएं तो ये हमारे पास मेन फंक्शन है, हमारे पास ये बिल्कुल वैसी इन्वायरमेंट है जैसे आईडी के अंदर होता है। सो वी हैव द फंक्शन मेन, इन द फंक्शन मेन वी हैव द टाइप वन। ओके, सो द टाइप वन इज अबाउट द, मैंने क्या लिखा, वर्ड रिजल्ट इक्वल्स टू सबट्रैक्ट। लाइक आप ये देख रहे हैं कि मैंने इस सबट्रैक्ट को इस तरीके से डिफाइन कर रहा है, तो उसका मतलब क्या है? इट मीन्स दैट कि ये जो मैंने फंक्शन डिफाइन करा था, क्योंकि आपको पता है कॉटलिन के अंदर फंक्शन लाइक डिफाइनिंग अ फंक्शन इन कॉटलिन विद अ फंक्शन एंड द नेम, देयर दे आर द पैरामीटर्स, इट इज द रिटर्न टाइप, एंड देन यू आर एक्चुअली डूइंग सम स्टफ एंड रिटर्निंग इट देयर। तो हम लोगों ने क्या करा कि हम लोगों ने इस पूरे सबट्रैक्ट फंक्शन को एक अदद हमने इसका डेलीगेट कर दिया कि जो भी इस सबट्रैक्ट के अंदर है, नाउ इट गोज टुवर्ड इन द रिजल्ट। अब सब काम जो सबट्रैक्ट का था वो कहाँ आ गया, वो रिजल्ट के अंदर आ चुका है, अब वो रिजल्ट का पार्ट बन चुका है। एंड नाउ द रिजल्ट इज आल्सो अ फंक्शन। तो इससे क्या डिफाइन हुआ, अ फंक्शन दैट इज रिटर्निंग अ फंक्शन, कि हम फंक्शन को कॉल करा जो कि रिटर्न कर रहा था एक फंक्शन, और इसने रिजल्ट को भी एक अदद जो है ना इसने फंक्शन जो है बना दिया। एंड नाउ वी आर डूइंग ओके, सो लेट मी कमेंट इट आउट द ब्लू कोड, ताकि हम इसे थोड़ा सा रन करके देख सकें कि ये हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे। सो यू कैन सी दैट 5 minus 6 and then it defines that the 1 because we are subtracting। तो यहाँ पे थोड़ी सी एक छोटी सी लॉजिक ऐसी है लिखी थी सबट्रैक्ट के लिए कि कौन सा जो बड़ा हो उससे जो है सबट्रैक्ट हो जाए। तो यू कैन सी कि हमारे पास जो है ना ये अब हमारे पास क्या बन चुका है, ये हमारे पास एक अदर फंक्शन बन चुका है। नाउ द अनदर टाइप वी हैव, दिस इज कॉल्ड द हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शन और द लैम्डा फंक्शन, हम कह सकते हैं। तो हम इस पे क्या डिफाइन कर रहे हैं, हम इस पे डिफाइन कर रहे हैं कि वी हैव अ फंक्शन कॉल्ड एबीसी। The ABC can take the two arguments, the argument number A, the argument number B, and it would return a one argument। अब ये देखिए जो ऊपर की चीज थी that is still the same, हमने तो बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली जो है ना उसी वही चीज यहाँ पे भी बना दिया। तो ये बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली वैसे ही काम हमारा चल रहा है। मे बी माई स्क्रीन इज शेयर्ड, यस यस स्क्रीन शेयर्ड। ओके, तो हमने क्या करा, नंबर वन नंबर टू इज ये हमारे पास आर्गुमेंट आए एंड देन वी हैव डन सम कैलकुलेशंस हियर, और उसके थ्रू जो हमारे पास एबीसी था, देखिए एबीसी को बिल्कुल एज लाइक अ फंक्शन हमने कॉल करा और हमने इसके थ्रू जो है वो अपनी एक कैलकुलेशन परफॉर्म करी जो कि एडिशन की थी। एंड अगर हम इसे रन करें, सो द आंसर इज स्टिल this one, 3 plus 2 equals to 5. Now let's move toward the type 3. Type 3 is a type where what you are doing कि हमारे पास हमने एक anonymous function बनाया, there is a called anonymous function. An anonymous function is dealing something and it is returning another function। तो ये तमाम आप देखें जो मैंने बात कही थी इन द स्टार्टिंग, अ फंक्शन जो कि यहाँ की फंक्शन दैट इज डायरेक्टली रेफरेंसिंग और रिटर्निंग अ फंक्शन। नाउ द फंक्शन इज एक्चुअली रिटर्निंग अ फंक्शन। एक फंक्शन ने एक दूसरा फंक्शन रिटर्न कर दिया, नाउ द ऐड इज आल्सो अ फंक्शन। अब देखिए जब भी आप ऐड के अंदर 3 9 पास करेंगे, व्हाट इट वुड रिटर्न, इट वुड रिटर्न दिस फंक्शन, ये आपको ये फंक्शन रिटर्न करेगा, इट वुड नॉट रिटर्न टू यू द रिजल्ट। But then when you call this, it means that कि जो अंदर का फंक्शन था, now you can invoke that function। तो जब इसने इन्वोक करा उसे, चाहे whether you can do it in this way, whether you can do it in this way, आप जो है ना मल्टीपल ऐसी इन्वोकेशन जो है आपने ऐसे इन्वोकेशन परफॉर्म करी और आपने इस फंक्शन को कॉल कर दिया। तो अब आप इस चेक कर सकते हैं हमारे पास क्या आ गया, ठीक है। 3 है, मैंने जो भी इसके अंदर जो डेटा पास कर रहा था 3 + 9, 3 + 9 is 12 एंड द 12 पे आ गया, ठीक है। तो हमारे पास ये सब चीज़ आ गई। नाउ वी हैव a lot of lambda functions. The higher order functions are a lot of higher order functions are still available. We have the one called repeat, whether there are a lot, even अगर आप जो है for each का फंक्शन लिखना चाहते हो, so the for each function is also a lambda function here. जब भी आप Kotlin के अंदर बात करते हो, Kotlin are working a lot with the lambda, इनकी हर चीज़ के अंदर lambda है, mainly callbacks का जो फीचर है वो जिस तरीके से कम अप हो सके हम वो कर रहे हैं लोग, एंड देन दे आर मूविंग टुवर्ड द लैम्डा। अब ये लास्ट एग्जांपल है, दैट इज कॉल्ड रिपीट। आपने सबने देखा होगा, यू ऑलरेडी नोज अबाउट द फॉर लूप। फॉर लूप सबने पढ़ा है, ठीक है। फॉर लूप का मतलब होता है लाइक दैट्स एन आइटरेटिव अप्रोच के अंदर एक वो आपको प्रिंट करके देता है। नाउ वी हैव द रिपीट फंक्शन हियर वेयर वी आर रिपीटिंग अ 5, मतलब 5 मरतबा ये हो, एंड द 5 मरतबा क्या हो, एंड देन इट इज लाइक द कॉलिंग ऑफ फंक्शन जो मैंने एबीसी का ऊपर फंक्शन बनाया था। नाउ आई एम जस्ट कॉलिंग, और 3 + 2 को जब मैं करता हूँ तो what it would do, it would bring the 555. So that is called the lambda function. और lambda function बहुत ज़रूरी थे before dig into the Kotlin. So let's back toward our journey to the compose. So go to Android Studio for coding stuff. Oh, okay. So अब हम आ गए हैं coding के ऊपर. Okay. So now we have here. I already have a one build up project जो मैंने थोड़ी सी examples बनाई है. Because if I can tell you, I also have not done a lot of work with the compose, लेकिन अच्छा खासा भी I'm actually तो आप लोग समझे मैं आप लोगों की तरह ही हूँ, मैं चीज़ें सीख रहा हूँ, चीज़ें सिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ and so on। तो ये सब चीज़ें जो है ना मैं still stand कर रहा हूँ। तो now we have the one function called, हमारे पास एक हम पहले आते हैं compose की तरफ आते हैं। तो हमारे पास एक हम लोग क्या करेंगे, like how you can generate the compose activity। तो आप लोगों को सबको पता है enter new project, एंड थ्रू दैट न्यू प्रोजेक्ट व्हाट यू वुड डू कि आपने यहाँ से जो है कंपोज की एक एक्टिविटी बनाई, और कंपोज एक्टिविटी बनाने के बाद आपने एक कंपोज का जो है ना जो है एक अदर एक्टिविटी जो है ना आपने जनरेट कर दी। फरहान, एम आई विजिबल राइट नाउ? सॉरी फॉर इंटरप्शन, एम आई विजिबल?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay, sure. Because I got your message, so that's why I thought कि शायद मेरी विजिबल नहीं है। Okay. या तो अच्छा, हम सिंपल आते हैं कंपोज की तरफ कि हमने एक कंपोज की एक एम्प्टी एक्टिविटी बनाई। तो जो चीज़ें लाइक ऑल दोज थिंग्स दैट एक्चुअली कवर्ड बाय कार्लोस, नाउ वी आर हियर ऑन द एंड्रॉइड स्टूडियो राइट नाउ, और हम उस चीज़ों को जो है ना देखने वाले हैं। व्हाट आई टोल्ड टू यू कि हमारे पास एक यूआई यहाँ पे होता है, एक हमारे पास हमें कोडिंग स्टफ है दैट्स कॉल्ड अ यूआई, एंड हियर वी हैव द डिज़ाइन स्प्लिट कि जिसके अंदर हमारे पास जो है आप डिज़ाइन देख सकते हो कि ये कैसे जो है ये डिस्प्ले कर रहा है, ठीक है। तो हम डायरेक्टली आते हैं यहाँ की तरफ, हम देखते हैं ये कंपोजेबल हमारे पास वही एनोटेशन है, वी हैव अ प्रीव्यू एनोटेशन हियर, एंड देन वी आर यूजिंग ओके। सो व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, अब यहाँ पे देखिए आप, व्हाट इज दिस, इजंट अ लैम्डा ऑर्डर फंक्शन जो हम अभी पढ़ रहे थे। That's why I actually move toward the lambda or the harder function, ताकि पता चले कि होता क्या है, क्या चीज़ है। Now what we are actually doing, अगर हम simply जाएं, मैं ये करता हूँ first compose app में, ये मेरे पास एक component बना हुआ है that is placed somewhere else, जहाँ मैं रखा हुआ है। Okay, मैं जाके देखता हूँ ये हो क्या है। Oh, okay, so what is this? It's a composable right now. ये भी composable है because we are doing some UI element, material thing is a UI element. That's why we have this composable annotation. Now what we see कि हमारे पास तो यहाँ पे क्या है ये, that is called a lambda। हमने यहाँ पे एक इसे पास करा है, हमने इसे क्या बोला कि एक हमारे पास एक फंक्शन है फर्स्ट कंपोज है थीम का, एंड यू कैन परफॉर्म समथिंग हियर, जिसके अंदर कुछ उसके अंदर परफॉर्म करेगा, वो मटेरियल थीम के लगाएगा, एंड देन एट द टाइम ऑफ अ कंटेंट जस्ट कॉल्ड माय कंपोजेबल, जो कि मैंने यहाँ पास कर रहा हूँ उसे, जो कि मैं यहाँ इसे लैम्डा के अंदर जो मैं जो कि पास कर रहा था। जिस तरीके से अगर मैं वापसी अपने यहाँ पे कोडिंग स्टफ के ऊपर जाऊँ, तो जिस तरीके से मैं यहाँ पे इसे पास कर रहा था, बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली ये रिटर्न हुआ था यहाँ पे, सेम एज लाइक वी आर रिटर्निंग इट हियर। हम ये रिटर्न कहाँ कर रहे हैं, हम कंटेंट को रिटर्न कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे, ये फर्स्ट कंपोज थीम को कर रहे हैं। और अगर मैं इस मटेरियल थीम के इस कंटेंट के ऊपर जाऊँ एंड लेट्स सी कि क्या लेता है, इट टेक्स अ कंपोजेबल यूनिट, ये कंपोजेबल लेता है जिसका क्या होता है, कोई पैरामीटर्स नहीं होते और ना वो कुछ रिटर्न करता है, बट इट्स स्टिल अ हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शन. दैट इज व्हाई वी एक्चुअली लर्न अबाउट व्हाट इज हायर ऑर्डर फंक्शन. तो हमारे पास यहाँ आ गया फर्स्ट कंपोज ऐप थीम आ गया. फर्स्ट कंपोज ऐप थीम के अंदर व्हाट वी एक्चुअली हैव डन कि हम लोगों ने यहाँ पे अपना पूरा कंटेंट डिफाइन कर दिया यहाँ पे कि हम इस तरीके से अपना कंटेंट है. अब फर्स्ट कंपोज ऐप थीम के अंदर ये हमारे पास एक डिफॉल्ट वैल्यू डिफाइन हुई है. इवन वी कैन ऑल्सो डू दिस थिंग कि अगर हम चाहते तो हम वो भी कर सकते थे फर्स्ट कंपोज ऐप थीम. और इवन कि हम लोग यहाँ पे भी डायरेक्टली जो है ना वो जो भी हमारे पास था कंटेंट था, तो कंटेंट है, मैं कंटेंट यहाँ भी यूँ करके पास कर सकता हूँ. आई कैन डू ऑल्सो डू इट इन दिस वे, मैं ये भी कर सकता हूँ. बट इस तरीके से पास करने में थोड़ा सा एक अच्छा सा आ जाता है कि अच्छा भाई ओ हो लाइक वी आर डूइंग सम कोडिंग स्टफ. तो ये बस ऐसे करके होता है और इसके अंदर ये कोई बात नहीं है कि मतलब कुछ अलग चीज़ है. इट्स लाइक अ पैरामीटर, वी आर पासिंग इट एज अ पैरामीटर. सो नाउ वी हैव अ सरफेस हियर. द सरफेस इज एक्चुअली लाइक जब भी हम लोग एक यूआई बना रहे होते हैं, सो वी ऑलरेडी नोस अबाउट द बैकग्राउंड एंड ऑल दो सिस्टम कि हमारे पास पीछे है क्या. हमारे पास एक जो पूरा स्क्रीन है. सो स्क्रीन इज कॉल्ड अ सरफेस. तो आप ये देखिए खुद ही लिख के देते हैं एंड्रॉइड वाले सरफेस कंटेनर यूजिंग अ बैकग्राउंड कलर फॉर द थीम. क्योंकि हमारे पास हमें पता है कि ऑलरेडी नोज अ डार्क थीम या लाइट थीम और हमें पता है कि मैक्सिमम साइज हमने करना है, तो हम ये सब चीज़ें यहाँ पे डिफाइन कर सकते हैं. वी ऑल्सो हैव अ मॉडिफायर हियर. थ्रू दैट मॉडिफायर अगर आपको पता हो कि आप जब एक्सएमएल करते थे तो एक्सएमएल के अंदर हमारे पास हम सब चीज़ें डिफाइन कर देते हैं. एंड्रॉइड विड्थ इक्वल्स टू रैप कंटेंट, एंड्रॉइड हाइट इक्वल्स टू रैप कंटेंट. नाउ ऑल द थिंग्स आर नॉट हियर, हियर आर द मॉडिफायर. अब सबका मॉडिफाई करेगा यहाँ पे. अब एक से ज़्यादा प्रॉपर्टीज है आपकी, आपने डॉट लगाया और जो आपने करनी है आपने करना है भाई कि आपकी जो है वो मैक्सिमम, फिर मैक्सिमम हाइट होनी चाहिए तो मैक्सिमम हाइट के ऊपर बन जाएगा. मैक्सिमम साइज होना चाहिए, इसका मतलब है पूरी साइज ऑफ द स्क्रीन ले लेगा. तो इस तरीके से इसके अंदर जो है हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं. व्हाट इज अबाउट द मटेरियल थीम हियर. तो नाउ वी आर आल्सो यूजिंग अ मटेरियल थीम कि हम तमाम क्योंकि कंपोज ज़्यादातर काम जो है वो मटेरियल के थ्रू, क्योंकि आपको पता है द मटेरियल इज हियर टू मेक योर यूआईज टू मच ब्यूटीफुल. और ब्यूटीफाई करने के लिए जो है ना ये यूज़ होता है. तो आप जो है ना मटेरियल थीम को हम यूज़ कर रहे हैं इस टाइम बैकग्राउंड के लिए. देन वी हैव द वन कंपोनेंट हियर जो हमने जनरेट करा था, जो हमने पढ़ा भी था. एंड देन इन द कंपोनेंट वी हैव अ टेक्स्ट व्यू राइट नाउ. आई डोंट नो माय एंड्रॉइड व्हाट हैपेंड विद माय एंड्रॉइड स्टूडियो. लेट मी रीस्टार्ट इट अगेन. सो फिर इसके अंदर मैं आप लोगों को एक यूआई शो ऑफ कर सकता हूँ. Yes, let me also close my WhatsApp. So it is interrupting me. Okay. Still अभी अगर एंड्रॉइड का आपने देखा तो मैं चिप मूंग यूज कर रहा हूँ right now because in my professional projects, or I can say that in my office we are working on we also have a product that are on XML right now. तो उसके अंदर जब डॉल्फिन का एक वर्जन आया था उसके अंदर XML व्यू नहीं हो रहे थे. एंड इवन करेंटली इन द इलेक्ट्रोड के अंदर भी किसी टाइम के ऊपर जो है आपके जो XML के व्यूज हैं वो सही तरीके से विजिबल नहीं हो रहे. तो जिसकी वजह से जो है ना हम लोग जो है इसकी तरफ जो है ना मूव ऑन हो रहे हैं. और हम जो है ना मतलब मैं चिंपों की तरफ ही रह गया और मैं जो है आगे नहीं गया. ओके. So now, just also put the call right now. Okay, so here we have the one thing called the start interactive mode. Start interactive mode defines that कि मेरे पास एक interactive mode है, मैं directly जो है यहाँ पे काम कर सकता हूँ. What would I do? Android Jetpack. So मैंने Android Jetpack लिखा, simple. Sometimes ये खुद भी कर देता है. It's actually based upon कि आपका PC कितना faster है. Sometimes interactive mode के अंदर ये खुद ही directly जो है यहाँ पे visible कर देता है. बट नाउ मैंने जो है यहाँ पे ये करा. आई डोंट नो. ओके ओके. सो इट्स आल्सो अबाउट द प्रीव्यू. क्योंकि देखें ये अभी देखा एक चीज़ आई पता चली कि जो भी प्रीव्यू में कर रहे हैं बिकॉज वी आर एक्चुअली व्यूइंग इट ऑन द प्रीव्यू साइड. तो हमने यहाँ पे भी तो जाहिर सी बात है वो चीज़ करनी है कि हमने तो वहाँ पे करा है. नाउ यू कैन सी कि जब आपने बोल रहा था कि ये रिफ्लेक्ट जो है डायरेक्ट हो गया. जेट पे कंपोज हेलो एंड्रॉइड डाले एंड ऑल दोस स्टफ इज हियर. एंड देन डायरेक्टली आप जो है ना इसे यूआई की तरफ जो है ना मूव. चलें ये तो समझें कि इट्स लाइक अ बेसिक सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टफ. सो लेट्स मूव अगेन. अगर इसके अंदर लाइक कंपोनेंट्स बन रहे हैं अब हम देखते हैं थोड़ा सा बेटर इससे और थोड़ा सा अ लिटिल बिट के हमारे पास सेकंड वन जो है हम क्या कर रहे हैं और लेआउट्स के हिसाब से. सो वी हैव दिस वन कॉल्ड द बर्थडे कार्ड एक्टिविटी। जब भी आप जितने भी अभी एंड्रॉइड की आपको जो फरहान ऑलरेडी टोल्ड टू यू अबाउट द pathways, we have the 5 pathways right now. When you are moving toward one pathway to second and third, you are also going to create the same projects. तो बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली यही आप प्रोजेक्ट्स बना रहे होगे, यू आर लर्निंग फ्रॉम दैम ना, यू आर लर्निंग अ लॉट फ्रॉम दैम। तो ये चक्कर है। तो अब आ जाओ हमारे पास, लेट्स मूव टूवर्ड, हमारे पास एक बर्थडे कार्ड है एंड देन मैंने बर्थडे कार्ड बनाया एक। तो अब इसके अंदर देखते हैं हमारे पास क्या क्या चीज़ें हैं। अब स्टार्टिंग से आते हैं एंड देन वी मूव टुवर्ड द ऑन पीरियड। वी नोज अबाउट द ऑन पीरियड इज अ स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट टू एंटर इन एन एप्लीकेशन। कि जब भी हम एप्लीकेशन में जो भी एप्लीकेशन रन होती है तो हमारे पास ऑन स्टार्ट से जो है वो एप्लीकेशन रन होती है। इसके बाद हमारे पास आई एक थीम। थीम इज रियली इट्स अप टू यू, आप जो है थीम इस तरीके से यूज करना चाहते हो नहीं करते हो। इवन यू कैन ऑल्सो रिमूव इट, अगर नहीं चाहते तो आप इसे रिमूव कर दो, बट फॉर द बेटर एक मैंने उसके लिए जो है ना इसे आप लगाया हुआ है। इट्स अप टू यू कि आप क्या करते हो। We also have a surface here. Okay, let's move toward the birthday card. अब आप देखिए बर्थडे कार्ड का अगर मैं UI की तरफ जाऊं तो इसमें क्या क्या है मेरे पास। We have a one background here. मैं लेआउट इंस्पेक्टर पे आ जाता हूं ना, हम वहां देख रहे हैं, हम कोड नहीं देख रहे। So we have a background here. एक बैकग्राउंड आया, बैकग्राउंड के अंदर हमारे पास एक आइटम आया, एक आइटम के बाद एक और आइटम है एंड देन वी हैव अनदर इमेज। तो ये अब बनेगा कैसे, ये तो समझ आ गया। अगर मैं एक XML वाली साइट पे जाऊं तो XML में क्या होता है कि हम लोगों ने एक कंस्ट्रेंट लेना था या रिलेटिव लेना था या लीनियर लेना था एंड देन वी एक्चुअली लाइक वी हैव टू डिफाइन द टेक्स्ट व्यूज। दो टेक्स्ट व्यूज आते हैं, देन वन इमेज व्यू एंड देन द बैकग्राउंड। हम जो है चाहे रिलेटिव लेते चाहे कंस्ट्रेंट लेते हैं, हम उसका बैकग्राउंड सेट कर देते हैं। वहाँ पे वो स्टफ था, वही बोरिंग सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टफ जो हम करते रहते हैं। सो नाउ हियर वी हैव अनदर थिंग। अब इसके अंदर ये क्या चीज़ आ गई, ये तो अच्छा यहाँ से आता है ताकि थोड़ा सा पता चले। So now we have the layouts in the Jetpack Compose. हमारे पास कौन कौन से हैं। If you want to show something like vertical, कि एक ये आया एक ये आया here, so we have to deal this through the columns. हमारे पास कॉलम्स होते हैं थ्रू दैट। तो कॉलम्स क्या डिफाइन करते हैं, कॉलम्स ये डिफाइन करते हैं कि आपकी हर चीज कॉलम के अंदर आ जाए, एक आइटम सेकंड आइटम थर्ड आइटम फोर्थ आइटम ये कॉलम में आ जाए। नाउ वी हैव द अनदर थिंग कॉल्ड रॉ। हमारे पास देखिए रॉ भी है। रॉ का क्या मतलब है, रॉ इज एक्चुअली डिफाइंस दैट कि रॉ के अंदर हमारे पास हॉरिजॉन्टली आइटम किस तरीके से आना चाहिए, वन आइटम टू आइटम थ्री आइटम फोर आइटम, और इस तरीके से जो है ना आप कर सकते हो ये रॉ के अंदर। जब हम रॉ की बात करते हैं तो हमारे पास यहाँ पे वर्टिकल अलाइनमेंट जो है हमें सेट करनी होती है। क्योंकि देखिए अब इसके अंदर क्या होता है कि हर किसी की अपनी अपनी जो है ना टाइप्स है। इफ यू वांटेड टू नो अबाउट द टाइप्स ऑफ दिस लेआउट और टाइप ऑफ एनी ऑफ द यूआई कंपोज, जो जितने भी यूआई एलिमेंट्स हैं, व्हाट यू कैन डू, आप कंट्रोल प्रेस करेंगे, आप तो डायरेक्ट ट्रैक बॉक्सेस पे क्लिक करें, यू वुड गो इनटू। आप जब देखेंगे आपको यू विल रियलाइज कि इसमें है क्या क्या। इसके अंदर मेरे पास एक हॉरिजॉन्टल अरेंजमेंट है, एक वर्टिकल अरेंजमेंट, एक कंटेंट है, एक मॉडिफायर है, इसकी कुछ डिफॉल्ट वैल्यूज हैं। आप इसके थ्रू भी लर्निंग स्टफ कर सकते हो और अपनी पूरी लर्निंग एक फील्ड जो है ना एक लर्न कर सकते हो कि आपने कंपोज में काम करना कैसे। सो नाउ वी हैव द वन कॉलम एंड कॉलम के अंदर हम लोग पहले हम अंदर के स्टफ की बात करें जो देखें बाउंड्री बन के आ रही है। तो कॉलम आया, कॉलम के अंदर वी हैव द वन थिंग कॉल्ड द टेक्स्ट व्यू। दिस इज आल्सो कॉल्ड अ टेक्स्ट व्यू। देन वी हैव अ स्पेसर। स्पेसर क्या है यहाँ पे, स्पेसर इज लाइक अ मार्जिन। हम क्या करें, एक मार्जिन जनरेट कर लिया दो लेआउट के दरमियान, तो कैसे करेंगे, थ्रू द स्पेसर। देन वी हैव द वन कॉल्ड इमेज। अब आ गई हमारे पास इमेज। तो इमेज के अब जाहिर सी बात है, लाइक वी वांट टू शो समथिंग ऑन इमेज राइट नाउ। तो इमेज के अंदर अब हम क्या करेंगे, कोई ना कोई ड्रॉएबल शो करेंगे। नाउ लेट्स बैक टुवर्ड द एक्सएमएल साइट। हमें वहां पे क्या करना होता था, हमें एक ड्रॉएबल का ऑब्जेक्ट बनाना होता है। दैट ड्रॉएबल इज नाउ पास टुवर्ड द एंड्रॉइड। जो इमेज का जो रिसोर्स होता था, एसआरसी होता था, हम उसके ऊपर पास करते थे। बट नाउ इट्स सो मच इजी, इजंट सिंपल। आपका पेंटर रिसोर्स आया, पेंटर रिसोर्स के अंदर हियर टू डिफाइन डायरेक्टली द ड्रॉएबल, और जो भी ड्रॉएबल आपने डिफाइन करा वो डायरेक्टली यहाँ पे अटैच हो गया। if you want the string, so what you would do, आपने string resource डायरेक्टली डिफाइन करा और string resource से आपने डायरेक्टली string को यहाँ पे कॉल कर दिया। you don't have to write that hefty code, now it's so much easy। तो आप हर चीज ऐसे कर सकते हो। आपने मॉडिफायर है, मैंने थोड़ी सी पैडिंग दी उसे, थोड़ा साइज इसका जो है ना बड़ा करूँ तो मैंने इस तरीके से साइज दिया एंड सो ऑन। नाउ यू कैन आल्सो सी फ्यू ऑफ द थिंग्स। जब भी हम मटेरियल की बात करते हैं तो मटेरियल हैव अ लॉट ऑफ स्टफ। हमारे पास मटेरियल के अंदर कुछ हेडिंग्स आती हैं, कुछ बॉडीज आती हैं, टाइपोग्राफीज हमें मटेरियल प्रोवाइड करता है, हमें कंपोनेंट्स मटेरियल प्रोवाइड करता है. तो हियर आई एम यूजिंग अ टाइपोग्राफी ऑफ द बॉडी वन. मीन्स दैट कि जो भी ये टेक्स्ट व्यू लिखा है, जो भी एक मटेरियल थीम के अंदर जो भी एक बॉडी का शेप है, उस बॉडी के शेप से जो है ना इसका ये टेक्स्ट स्टाइल यहाँ पे इसके ऊपर आके खुद ही सेट हो जाए. तो उसका जो डिफॉल्ट उन्होंने टेक्स्ट स्टाइल कॉल करा था वो यहाँ पे आके खुद ही सेट हो जाएगा. Then we have the same, the modifier and all those stuff. Let's move toward here. Why the box here? ये थोड़ा सा weird चीज़ है, box क्यों आ गया? So now the box, why the box is here? The box actually defines a stack. Stack means कि अब जाहिर सी बात है इसका ये बैकग्राउंड भी तो हमें लगाना था ना किसी तरीके से, या मुझे एक ऐसी चीज़ शो करनी है जो एक बैकग्राउंड के ऊपर हो एंड आई वांट टू शो समथिंग दैट इज ऑन डायरेक्टली ऑन द फ्रंट ऑफ इट. तो मैं किस तरीके से जो है ना फॉरवर्ड या फ्रंट के ऊपर शो करूंगा? थ्रू द बॉक्स. मैं बॉक्स के थ्रू जो है ना ये वाला काम करूंगा कि मैं बॉक्स डिफाइन करूंगा, और बॉक्स के अंदर आप जो भी चीज़ डिफाइन करेंगे वो एक दूसरे के ऊपर आ जाएगी, वो डायरेक्टली स्टैक के ऊपर एक दूसरे के ऊपर आ जाती है. तो दैट इज वाई आई डिफाइन द बॉक्स हियर फॉर सेटिंग आउट माई इमेज, क्योंकि मेरी इमेज जो थी वो क्या थी, मेरी कस्टम इमेज थी. तो मैंने क्या करा, कस्टम इमेज के लिए इमेज यूज होगा, एंड देन आई हैव यूज्ड द बॉक्स टू शो दैट कस्टम इमेज एट द बैक. तो ये आपको यहाँ पे दिख रहा है, एक बैक के ऊपर आएगा. So this is called a little bit more intro about how we can work in a compose. Now अब थोड़ी सी एक और थोड़ी सी हम एक लेआउट के अंदर जाते हैं, और हम उस लेआउट के अंदर, अच्छा एक चीज़ तो मैं इसमें बताना भूल गया, that we have the one thing called, yeah, that's a birthday model. मैंने एक बर्थडे मॉडल डिफाइन करा है यहाँ पे, एंड नाउ आई एम पासिंग दिस बर्थडे मॉडल देयर. तो बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली मैंने एक क्लास यहाँ पे डिफाइन करी. एक क्लास डिफाइन करने के बाद जो भी चीज़ें सेटिंग हो रही थी मैंने उस क्लास में सेट करी, एंड देन आई पास दिस क्लास टू हेयर, और मैंने जो है इसके अंदर यहाँ पे पास कर दिया. ये प्रीव्यू साइट है, तो प्रीव्यू साइट मैंने डायरेक्टली कर दिया, बिकॉज एट द टाइम ऑफ रनिंग द एप्लीकेशन ये प्रीव्यू कुछ नहीं होता, तो आपने सिंपल किया होगा. तो आपने इस तरीके से ऐसे करके आपने बर्थडे मॉडल पास कर दिया. नाउ वी हैव द वी कार्ड एक्टिविटी. मैं ये तमाम चीज़ें शेयर करूंगा, सो यू कैन ऑल्सो लर्न इट फ्रॉम देयर. आप वहाँ पे लर्न कर सकते हो किस तरीके से काम हो रहा है एंड सो ऑन. तो इसके अंदर एक छोटा सा एक इंटरेक्टिव यूआई मैंने बनाया था एक वी कार्ड मॉडल के थ्रू, जिसके अंदर एक तमाम चीज़ें जो है ना ये शो हो रही थी, और इस तरीके से एक बनाया. नाउ लेट्स जंप टूवर्ड सम कुछ और, बस यूआई तो बहुत हो गया. अब हम आते हैं कुछ थोड़े से डिफरेंट स्टफ के ऊपर, एंड दैट स्टफ इज कॉल्ड dealing with a button or the dealing with state. Dealing with a button and including a state. तो हम किस तरीके से ये वाला काम करेंगे? Now we can see it here right now. अब अगर मैं जब बात करता हूँ, now you can see, आपने ये तो सब देख लिया कि भाई किस तरीके से होता है. ये आ गया मेरे पास डाइस बटन एनिमेट, ये आ गया. Then we have the result here, and here we have remember. अब remember क्या चीज़ है? Now jump back into our slides to know about what is a state. So in Compose, we are using the two types of states to deal with the UI. Carlos सब बता चुके हैं. Let me again मैं सिर्फ थोड़ा सा बताऊँ. Mutable state of and then remember. Mutable state of is like observable that will return you observable. लेकिन हमारे पास क्या होता है? Whatever is happening inside the Compose, कभी भी कुछ भी चेंज होता है Compose के UI के ऊपर, तो that Compose is actually recompose itself. जब भी ये recompose होता है, तो रिकम्पोज में क्या होता है, जो अंदर का जितना कंटेंट होता है वो तमाम अपडेट हो जाता है. अब यहाँ पे एक और बात आती है कि फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे पास 10 कंटेंट है हमारी स्क्रीन के ऊपर, और सिर्फ एक कंटेंट में एक कंपोनेंट में चेंज आया, तो पूरे वो 10 कंपोनेंट अपडेट नहीं होंगे, ओनली दैट वन कंपोनेंट इज अपडेटेड और रिकम्पोज्ड. तो इस तरीके से म्यूटेबल स्टेट होता है. देन वी हैव अ रिमेंबर दैट होल्ड्स द यूआई, जो कि होल्ड करता है यूआई को जब वो रिफ्रेश कर जाता है. तो हियर वी हैव दिस वन, वी कॉल्ड अ रिमेंबर स्टेट. आई डिफाइंड अ रिमेंबर, and here in the remember type I am actually passing it here. Now you can see what is this. The lambda is again, the higher order function is again here, and here what I am actually doing कि मेरे पास एक result तो एक observable बन गया है. मैंने क्या करा, एक painter resource से get dice image में यहाँ जाऊँ तो मैंने छोटा सा कोड लिखा है to get the image and so on. तो इसके अंदर जो है हमारे पास ये तमाम चीज़ें हमने डिफाइन करी, और हमने ये इस तरीके से एक रैंडम बनाया. मैं एक जल्दी से इसका यूआई एक स्टफ दिखा सकूं ताकि यू गेट टू नो कि हमारे पास ये स्टेट्स काम कैसे करती हैं. अब नाउ यू कैन सी, जब मैंने बटन पे क्लिक करा, ओ इट इज चेंजिंग नाउ. इट मीन्स दैट ऑन क्लिकिंग ऑफ इट, इट इज चेंजिंग अ वैल्यू, जो इसमें से एक 1 से जो रैंडम वैल्यू है वो इसे अपडेट कर रहा है. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड, दैट्स हाउ द स्टेट वर्क्स इन कंपोज. या अब हमारे पास जब हम कंपोज की बात करें तो हमारे पास एक छोटा सा एक और स्टफ है जिसके ऊपर हमने बात करनी चाहिए, जो कि हमारे पास एक एक्टिविटी मैंने बनाई है, दैट इज कॉल्ड अ लैमिनेट एक्टिविटी। लैमिनेट एक्टिविटी, व्हाट इज द लैमिनेट एक्टिविटी डू? बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली सेम है। इसके अंदर हमारे पास मल्टीपल कंपोज आ गए, हमारे पास स्टेप्स का एक कंपोज है, स्क्विज का है। तो मैं एक सिंपल से एक रन करके दिखाता हूँ, सो यू गेट टू नो। एक छोटा सा मैंने कोड लिखा, आई नो अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ कोड, इसके अंदर कोई इश्यूज मतलब देखें कोई ऐसा, लेकिन मैंने एक कोड लिखा। अब इसमें हो क्या रहा है, नाउ इट इज लाइक टैप अ लेमन ट्री टू सेलेक्ट। जब मैंने किया तो ओ वाओ, एक नेक्स्ट स्क्रीन आ गई। ये कह रहा है कि मोर स्क्वीज इज रिक्वायर्ड, ज्यादा स्क्वीज चाहिए। ओ नाउ द लैमिनेट इज हियर एंड देन ऑन क्लिक ऑन इट, नाउ द glass is empty to start again and then it is started again. So this is called how the jetpack compose states are working. इसके अंदर छोटा सा कोड लिखा है एंड देन आई कैन ऑल्सो गिव यू दैट कोड। अब इसके अंदर एक नई चीज आ गई है जो मैंने यहाँ पे यूज करी, दैट इज कॉल्ड स्कैफोल्ड। अब जाहिर सी बात है कि स्कैफोल्ड के अंदर हमारे पास क्या होता है कि हमारे पास कोई ना कोई यूआई हमें बनाना है, ऊपर से हमें कुछ हमें कोई एक टॉप बार बनानी है, बॉटम बार बनानी है। तो हम किस तरीके से बनाएंगे? थ्रू दैट स्कैफोल्ड हम करते हैं। ये टॉप बार आ जाता है, बॉटम बार आप ये सिंपल सिंपल, आपने कोई एक्शन एलिमेंट्स डिफाइन नहीं करने, कुछ नहीं करने, एंड देन यू हैव ऑल द थिंग्स हियर। और अगर मैं इसके अंदर दिखाऊं, एक मिनट, अगर मैं इसे यहाँ पे रन कर सकूं, अभी तक विजिबल था ये ओके, हियर वी हैव। तो हमारे पास या सो आई आल्सो हैव टू रैप इट अप राइट नाउ। मैं बस एक छोटा सा प्रीव्यू दे सकूं उसका। या एक्चुअली एंड्रॉइड स्टूडियो टेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम। तो इसके अंदर देखेंगे ऊपर जो टॉप बार आ रही है कैसे आ रही है, दैट इज कॉल्ड अ मटेरियल टॉप बार जो मैंने यूज करी है। अलाइन टॉप बार जो सेंटर करी है, सो ऑन, तो थ्रू दैट टॉप बार यू कैन डू इट। द लास्ट एंड द लीस्ट हमारे पास एक लिस्ट है। हमने जो पूरा कार्लो से डिफाइन करा कि आप जो है वो एक आप एक अडॉप्टर बनाते थे, एक व्यू होल्डर बनाते थे, एंड देन व्यू अडॉप्टर को एक रिसाइकलर व्यू से अटैच करते थे, इतना सारा स्टफ करते थे। नाउ दैट स्टफ इज गॉन, एक्चुअली गॉन। हियर इज द लेजी कॉलम हियर। सिंपल लेजी कॉलम से आपने क्या करना है, आपकी पूरी लिस्ट बन के आ गई है। यू कैन सी दिस लिस्ट हियर कि पूरी हमारे पास एक लिस्ट जनरेट हो चुकी है। हियर वी हैव अ लिस्ट कि हमारे पास एक आइटम व्यू आया और आइटम व्यू के अंदर वही आपका जो आइटम था आपने जो है ना इसे व्यू कर दिया पूरा यहाँ पे। तो दैट इज हाउ द लिस्ट वर्क्स। और ये मैंने थोड़ा सा एक जो है करा। इसके बाद एक हमारे पास कॉन्सेप्ट आता है जो डायरेक्टली बासित नेक्स्ट टॉक के अंदर बताएंगे, दैट इज कॉल्ड स्टेट होस्टिंग। कि हम किस तरीके से अपनी स्टेट को कंपोजेबल से बाहर निकाल सकते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे पास जो रिमेंबर्स स्टेट होती हैं वो रिमेंबर को हम किस तरीके से ऐसा बना दें कि हमारी जो पूरी एक ये जैसे एक स्टेट थी मेरी पूरी, ये लैमिनेट स्टेप वाली स्टेट, मैं किस तरीके से इसे जो है क्लीन बना के एक अलग से रखूँ ताकि मैं इसे इजिली यूज़ कर सकूँ हर जगह। तो थ्रू दैट हम जो है स्टेट को ही बाहर निकाल देते हैं अपनी स्टेट, दैट इज कॉल्ड अ स्टेट होस्टिंग। देन वी हैव द स्टेटलेस एंड द स्टेटफुल होस्टिंग, जो कि आपको नेक्स्ट टॉक के अंदर जो है बासित बताएंगे। एंड देन इसके बाद आपकी तमाम चीज़ें हैं, मैं इसके बाद तमाम चीज़ें शेयर कर दूंगा यूआई के ऊपर। एंड देन वी आल्सो हैव द वन थिंग कॉल्ड द व्यू टेप, कि जिससे कि हम एडिटेबल टेक्स्ट यूज कैसे लगा सकते हैं, एंड ऑल दोस स्टफ। Yeah, so that's all right now. Maybe I took a lot of time और ज़्यादा ले लिया because there were a lot of things that have to define, क्योंकि एक एक चीज़ डिफाइन करनी होती है और अगर वो नहीं होगी डिफाइन तो सही तरीके से पता ही नहीं चल पाएगा है क्या। बट स्टिल आप लोग मुझसे लिंक्डइन पे कनेक्ट हो सकते हैं, सो दैट वेयर आई वुड टेल यू क्या क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है, हर चीज़ मैं वहाँ आपको बता सकता हूँ। यू कैन डायरेक्टली पिंग मी, मैं अपनी स्लाइड शेयर कर दूँगा हर चीज़। मैं इवन के और भी कुछ बताना था लेकिन टाइम नहीं है। I know there is some time between discrepancy. Yeah, so yeah, that's it from my side. Farhan, if you are still here.
Yes, Ali. Wait,
Yeah, sorry I took
just
a little bit of more time क्योंकि चीज़ें बहुत थी, चीज़ें डिफाइन ज़्यादा करनी ज़रूरी है, तो इस चक्कर
no,
में।
no. It was really informative session, by the way. मुझे भी बहुत कुछ लर्निंग को मिला, बहुत बेसिक से बहुत informative था. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this.
Okay, so moving forward to the next speaker, we have Abdul Basit. Okay, so Abdul Basit is a skilled software engineer with a focus on Android development. He's passionate about creating an efficient, user-friendly mobile application and continuously seeking opportunities to enhance his skills in the ever-evolving field of Android development. So I would like to call Abdul Basit for his talk.
Thank you, Farhan. Hello everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay. Hello everyone. So I think my name is Abdul Basit, and today we will be going through like the activity life cycle. So I think Izaz and Carlos like go through the compose, and then Izaz go through like the Kotlin and what are the lambdas and how the compose works. So onwards we will look into like the activity life cycle and to the architecture and what architecture components do we have and how can we navigate. And after that we will look into an application where we are fetching some data from the network and then displaying that. So first of all, let me share. So this code is from the Google Code Lab. So let's have a look. So if we talk about the activity, so basically this is a basic building block of the Android. So we have like some basic building blocks like context receiver, activities and services. So activity is one of them, and this is the main thing where you draw and where different interactions are received. So normally you might have seen that whenever you are playing in a game or something and you suddenly receive a call, right? So your application pauses, the game pauses, and then once you are done with your call, so you can like resume that from there. So say, this is being handled in the activity, and we have different callbacks in the activity. So we have on create, and we have on start, on resume, and on pause. Like there are different callbacks. So first of all, let's look into the uncreate. So first of all, when your activity is being called, so this is the callback that you will receive, and inside that you can also get some bundles of data. And then we have on start. So is on start whenever like your activity start initializing, so this is the callback that you will be getting. And once your layout or the UI has been inflated and it's done with the UI inflation thing, so then you will get on resume callback. And then we have the on pause. So once your like there is something comes off on your activity, so it goes into on pause state. And then we have stop. So let's run this application and look into some callbacks. Let me run this. So as you can see that here our UI has been inflated, and you can see that the first callback is on create, then we have on start, and then we have on resume. Now if I move my activity into the background, if I click on this, right, so you can see that on pause has been called, and then on stop, and then on save instance state. And if I come back, so we go again with the on start, on resume. And now if I click on the share, so now you can see that my UI is in focus, but like it's still there, but there is like some labor on that. So in that case, the on pause will be called. And if I dismiss that, so then you can see that on resume has been called. Now this is like the activity lifecycle. Now if I click on this, so you can see that we have the desert salt counter has been incremented, and the total revenue increased from 0 to 10. If I click on it again, so it becomes 3 and 15. Now if I rotate my screen, so in case of rotation, you can see that our desert soul is 0 and total revenue is becomes 0. So why this happens? So in Android, we have a thing called configuration changes. Like whenever you rotate your screen or you split your screen, like if we do this, let me rotate my screen. Okay, if I click on this, so you can see that it has been incremented. Now if I move it to split mode, so now you can see that the values has been reset. So why this happens? Because whenever there are configuration changes, so our activity get restarted and the values are reset again. So to cover this, we have like a mechanism for this. So whenever as you can see in the callbacks, that we have unsaved instance state, right? And this is being called like whenever your activity is being destroyed. So before destroy, you get unstop, and after unstop, you get the unsaved instance state. So in this, you can save your data. Like if I want to save something in the bundle, so what I can do that I can outpost outstate dot put. I can put the value, the integer in the bundle, and once if one and on the create, I can retrieve that again. Here you can see that if I want to retrieve that, so I can retrieve it here. So this is the one thing that we can do, but we have also another thing. So if we look here, we can convert that to remember savable. So the remember savable, it will save the data on configuration changes. Now, if I run our application again, let's see. So now if I increment my counter, right, and if I rotate my screen, so you can see that the values are still there. So inside, like if we look into the remember savable, so it is using the same mechanism, but it's like kind of a wrapper on that. So if we use the remember savable, so it will save the value based on the configuration changes. Now, this was regarding the configuration changes and activity lifecycle. Now, consider that if you have like an application where there are multiple fields. In this case, we have only two fields. The first one is revenue, and the second one is the desert sort. But consider that now you have an application where there are a lot of data, like there is a lot of going on. You have desktop data, so in that case, it becomes like very tricky to save all the data and retrieve all the data. So for that, we have view models. So that is the Android architecture component. Let me show you that, where we have cupcake mouse game view model. Yep. Okay, so here we have another application which is called Scramble Game, and let me run this. So in this case, we have like an application where there are kind of some. So here you can see that we have some words which we need to guess, and if I go next, right? So, and I can submit, and you can see that we have the counter, and here below we have score. So in case of this application, we have multiple fields that we need to set. So in that case, what we can do, that we can utilize the Android view model. So Android view model, like this is a basic component in the Android framework, and it survives the configuration changes. So in case like if you rotate your screen, or if you like if you split, or there are some other configuration changes, so in that case the view model will survive. But please keep that in mind, that the view model, it survives the configuration changes, but it doesn't survive the process death. So in case of the process death, we have to do still again the same thing on the on save. We have on clear here on. So we have to like set the field in the same instance by ourselves, and then we have to retrieve for to handle the process death scenario. And if we look here, if we look into our UI state, right? So there you can see that we have like a game UI state, and here we have all the variables like current scramble word, current count word, scores, and this round and is game word. So we have all the fields in the game UI state, and we are exposing the UI state is a mutable is a state flow. So this is called the unidirectional data flow, UDF. In this pattern, what we do, that like we have data flowing from only one path, from only one way. So what we do, that we have state which is being exposed to our views. So if I click on this, you can see that we are collecting here is a state, and after that we are rendering. So here we have different buttons and different edit text, but we are collecting the state, and then we are rendering based on that. So this is called unidirectional data flow. Now, if we need to communicate from UI to the view model, so UI will send events to the view model, and view model will process those events, and based on those events, the view model would update the state, and then it would respond. Like if we look into the submit one, right? So here you can see that we are calling the check user guess, right? And here we are comparing if these both are equal or not. If these both are equal, so what we do, that we plus the score, and then we update the game state. So here we have the update function. What it does, that it gets the current state and copies it and set the value again. So once the value is set, so the mutable state is like smart enough, flow is smart enough to know that now I have to like send back some new updates, and if the states remain the same, so in that case it won't trigger again. So based on that, it will be like updating the our UI. So also here I need to like mention that why we did split up. So the first thing was like we are using view model because of the configuration thing, but the second thing is that we want to architect our application in a manner that is scalable. So suppose that there are like around 30 or 40 or 100 people working on your application, right? So in that case it gets very difficult for them to work on, like if they are working all are working on the main activity, right? So it gets very difficult to like merge the PR and review the PR, and there is a lot of mess. So we need, like we are doing the separation of concern. We are separating the different things. Like the UI is only responsible for rendering the UI. The view model is view model gets the events, and based on that it do something. Like if we need to feed the data from the network, or like different things that we need to do, right? So it receives the actions, and then it performs different operations and then update the state. So the view model, like it is taking action. So now and also testability. So if you are like testing the activity, right? So this is an Android framework thing. So for us it is very difficult to test. And also when we are testing the Android framework thing, so for that you need to create like the whole framework and spin up the whole framework thing. So it is the UI tests are very slow. So to overcome this thing, we are shifting our logic to our view model, so that we know that to view model, so that we can unit test it and we can test it easily. And we want to have minimal code in our domain or the network of the Android framework, so that it is pure Java or Kotlin code. So this was regarding the view model. Now the next thing that we need to do to look into the navigation in the compose. So if you want to navigate in the compose, so we have some Jetpack navigation libraries like navigation host. So what it does, that we have a NIP controller, you can see. So if someone has have worked with the views, so in the views we were used to have like navigation graph, and where we were having like the initial fragment, and after that we would like navigate from one to another one due via directions, right? There were different actions that used to generate. So it is the same thing here. We have like a NIP controller. So here you can see that we have like a remember NIF controller. Why we remember NIF controller? Because we want to it should remember its state. So we have a remember NIF controller, and then we have start destination. So by default the NIF host is empty. So we want to start it from somewhere. So that is the initial screen that we want to start with. And here you can see that we have different composable. If we look into this, right? So we have different composable like start, flavor, pickup, and summary. So it is based on route. So if you have checked the on the web, so we have like slash edit slash view slash update. We have like different routes, right? So this is the same behavior here. So we have different routes. So the current route is start name. This is the default route. And the composable, here in the composable, we tell it that this is the route. Once you get this route, so you need to inflate this screen. So here you can see that we have the start order screen. So it is based on this, and let me show you. Let's run this application. Okay, so now you can see that we have the start order screen. This is our start order screen. And if I click on this, right, one cup, so you can see that once the button is clicked, on the next button clicked, right? So we are navigating to the flavor screen. So this is the function of the NIF controller, and we give it a route, and based on the route, it will navigate to the next one. So here in the composable, we have decided, we have tell it that once you receive the flavor route, so you have to inflate this screen, the select option screen. So if we go here and we click on this, right, and if I go next, so in the next button we have like till that you need to go to the pickup screen, and here it comes to the pickup screen. So this is how easily like you can do the navigation in the compose word. Now if I want to go back, right, so if I click on the back, so you can see that now we have like one screen, and now we are on the choose flavor screen. So the navigation the navigation host, so it by default like create a stack. So this we have like screen A, we have screen B, we have screen C. So this is like a stack. So once we do the back, or when we do the pop-up, here you can see that when we click on the, here we have defined the to the div host that you need to like handle the back entry, right? Can navigate back, yeah. And it like it pops the previous screen, right? Previous screen. And now if I want to cancel the whole flow, so if I click on this, so I land on the main on the our landing screen. So if we go there, um, so if we go there to the on cancel button, right? So here if I click on this, so there you can see that we are popping the back stack. And to which screen? To the start screen. And inclusive means that do we want to pop up this screen or not? So in that case, this is our landing screen and we don't want to do that, so this is why we have false. So this is like the different features that the navigation stack offers. Now if we look into another thing, you can see that in the toolbar we have like a back button, right? So this is also you can configure that with the toolbar. So we have our top bar in the scaffold and the cupcake bar. And once we click on the navigate up, so there you can see that we have a controller. Through the div controller, navigate up, so it will automatically check if there is something to go back with. If there is, so it will go back. If I click on this, so it will go back. Otherwise it will like it will stay there. So this is how our navigation stack like do the different handle different stack options, and there are different options available. And we are also like collecting the state here. So we have a US state. So like whenever that is changed, so our the whole composable will run again. And the composer is smart enough to know like which UI I needed to update and which UI I needed to there is no need. So it decides based on the current value and the previous value, and then updates different values. So this was regarding the navigation. And another thing that we need to look into like the view model test, right? So if we look into the game test, so for the view model, I was telling that it is very easy to write unit tests, right? So the tests are already written. So if we just run, so you can see that it would run in milliseconds. But in case of the UI, so it would take like a lot of time, because we have to open the for the UI we have to set up the Android framework, and then it would spin up, and then it would do layout inflate different layouts and different things. So it takes a lot of time. So that's why we prepare unit test. So now we also have unit test our view model. Now, the next thing that we want to look into to or the data, getting data from the internet, right? So we have like a Mars application, the Mars photo. So here, if I show you, so we are retrieving the data via a retrofit. So we have the Mars API, and here we have a GET request, which is called photos, and we are getting a list of Mars photos. So this is like the response model that we have. So it has an ID and image source, and we are using serializable because we will be converting this data from one to another, and to make it convertible. So that's why we are using it, making it serializable. And we have an interface here. If let's look into the implementation of this interface. So here we have the implementation of this interface. So we have like we are implementing the Mars API here, and with the fake data source, this is for the test. But if we go there, so you can see that we have instantiated our retrofit. So this is a library like which makes your life very much easier. You don't have to like do a lot of things. And once we have like a converter factory. So once you get the data from the network, so it is normally in the JSON format. So we communicate via HTTP, and the response we get via REST APIs, that is in the JSON format. So we need some mechanism to convert that JSON into our data classes. So for that, we you can like add a converter factory to retrofit. So we have here we have a JSON converter factory, and then we have our base URL, and here we are creating the retrofit service. And then we are, because we have a repository, so remember that I mentioned that we need the separation of concerns. So here we have a repository layer. And what does the repository layer? That it separates, because we have to make our API, without repository we have to make our API call in our view model. So now we are separating that. So we have our view models, which is calling the repository, and repository is responsible for handling, for getting the response from the network or from the cache, or like the repository is responsible for data. And so the repository will decide either I have to get the cache, I have to refresh the cache, or I have to make the network call. So we have like a separation of concerns. So we have an interface here, and then we are implementing that. And here we have our repository, and then we have our app container, default app container. So we have our endpoint, and we are setting the retrofit. And if I go there into our application, so to make that like a singleton, so kind of a singleton, it is not, but here we have like let init, and once we try to access that, so it will initialize only one time, and then we can use that. Now if we go to our view model, so now if you go to our view model, so there you can see that we have Mars UI state. So remember I mentioned the unidirectional data flow. So here we have a UI state which will be exposing to our UI. So UI will be like listening to those states changes, and it will be rendering based on that. So we have like success, error, and loading. Now we have injected our repository here, and we have like a mutable state which is called Mars state. And once we get the init call, so there we are doing the we are modeling, we are calling that in our view model scope. So I think we don't have that much time, but after, if we have time, so then we can talk about coroutines. But here we have a view model scope. So this is like kind of, you can consider that like is activity lifecycle. So every view model has a lifecycle scope. So if you want to call a coroutine or launch a coroutine, so it needs a scope. And here we have our view model scope. So if the view model destroyed, so our view model scope will destroy with that. So inside that we are launching a coroutine, and we are setting the initial state to loading, and after that we are trying to get the API call. We are trying to get the Mars, and once that is successful, so we will emit a success state. Otherwise we will throw in error state, or we will throw in error state. So this is how we are like making the API call and emitting a success state. And now if we look into the UI state here, so you can see that Mars Photo app home screen. So there you can see that we have our view model, and we are into our home screen, we are just passing the state, not the view model. Like that's very important, that we shouldn't like pass the view model, because if you are working with preview, right? So in that case, because you cannot mock the preview, so we need to send some data so that we can see the preview. So here we are calling it the Mars, we are passing it the Mars UI state, and based on that we are like checking if either it is loading or success. So if it is loading state, so we need to show loading, otherwise we are showing the success. So this is how like you can make the API call. And remember that we need to add the permissions here, the internet permission here, that's very important. Yeah, so here we have to add the internet permission if you are making an API call. And here then we have like the fake implementation. We have our repository, test, and here you can see that we have a repository test, and we are asserting that it should provide us these values. So this was all regarding. Now if we have time, I'm not sure if we have time or not. Farhan, do we have time?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay, so I think it would take. I wanted to explain the coroutines, but I think it will take time. But let's like do let me know once we are done with time. So we have like coroutines. Like if you remember, so before coroutines, if we want to make an API call, so what you need to do, that you need to hit the service and then wait for it. So that was like an asynchronous mechanism, that you need to have a callback which will be triggered once you get the response. Now with the coroutines, it makes our code concurrent. Like if we look into the coroutines, so that is like a concurrency design pattern, and it was like since 1980s or something. It was introduced, and now in the coroutines we recently got that, so it makes your code synchronized, like once you start writing your code with the coroutine, so it seems like the code is sequential. So here you can see that we are calling the API, right? And before that we used to have like a callback, so we have to invoke like callback dot invoke, right? So we used to have something like that, and then send the data back. But now with the coroutines, we have that we can just directly call it, and then we can wait for it response, and then we can send back what we have. So that was it. That was it from the session. If you have any questions, so please drop it. Yeah, what do you?
Okay, Omer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Basit, sorry. Okay, so it really was a good event. So moving forward, if you guys have any question to ask, oh, okay, okay. So
Yeah. So I'm again here right now. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Basit, for this beautiful talk. Or you have covered up each and everything I can say, or to define everything, including how you can connect with your UI, with the new model, and all those stuff. So thanks a lot for Basit for this. Yeah. So again, let me, I don't know what just happened. Okay, yeah. So if anyone wants to know more about any sort of question, how you can start with Seekho and all those stuff, then you can tune to work. You can tune to this instruction that is actually displayed here. आप जा सकते हैं यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं और इवन अगर कोई और इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए कुछ भी चाहिए सो आप वो भी जो है डायरेक्टली यू कैन डायरेक्टली कमेंटेड हियर आप कर सकते हैं ताकि हम जो है डायरेक्टली उस चीज़ को डिफाइन कर सकें और इवन इफ़ यू हैव एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन with Basit or with me, you can also write it here. अगर किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन है कुछ है, so we both are here to let you know anything about the compose. Even the Basit is working a lot with the compose, I can say, and he has done a lot. And even as compared to me, I'm actually a fresher in front of him. So yeah, so but still, कुछ मैं जो भी दे सकता हूँ, I will do it. I'll try my best. Okay, so now we have the one question here. Okay, do Kotlin has a life cycle like Java? How are they different? Yeah. So, okay. So let me give you an answer for this. The Kotlin is actually a language. It's about the Java is also a language. Kotlin is also a language. तो ये Kotlin की कोई लाइफ साइकिल Java की कोई लाइफ साइकिल नहीं है Android की लाइफ साइकिल होती है एंड देन इफ यू आर वर्किंग विद एक्टिविटी की एक अलग लाइफ साइकिल होती है फ्रेगमेंट की एक अलग लाइफ साइकिल होती है बट व्हेन यू मूव टुवर्ड द कंपोज तो फिर हमारे पास वहाँ पे जो है वो हमारे पास फ्रेगमेंट के कॉन्सेप्ट्स थोड़े कम हो जाते हैं और वहाँ पे जो है हमारे पास एक्टिविटीज हम लोग मेनली यूज कर रहे होते हैं फिर वहाँ पे कंपोनेंट्स बन जाते हैं एंड ऑल दोस स्टफ सो इट्स ऑल अबाउट इट्स नॉट अबाउट द लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ कॉटलिन और जावा इट्स अबाउट द लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ एन एंड्रॉइड बासित अगर इसमें कुछ आप एडिशन करना चाहो तो
या आई थिंक हमारे पास अगर हम कंपोज के अंदर हैं तो उस केस में हमारे पास फ्रेगमेंट्स वगैरह का जो वो होता है वो ख़त्म हो जाता है सो देन वी आर लाइक ओनली ऑन द हम स्क्रीन के साथ डील्स करते हैं और उस केस में हमारे पास सिर्फ कंपोज फंक्शंस ही होती हैं और आई एम नॉट श्योर कि हम ये जावा के अंदर कर सकते या नहीं कर सकते हैं आई डिडंट गिव इट अ ट्राई बट इंटरेस्टिंग है
अच्छा सो हम कंपोज तो वैसे एक्चुअली जावा में नहीं कर सकते कंपोज के लिए कॉटलिन चाहिए इवन आई वाज आल्सो चेकिंग आउट द कमेंट्स ऑफ द पीपल वो यही कह रहे हैं कि भाई मैं तो जावा ही करूंगा एंड आई लव जावा एंड सो द एंड ऑल दोस स्टफ ये सब चीजें हो रहा है Okay, so now we have the another question. Let's we take few questions here. Okay, so what about fragments in compose? बासित ने अभी आपको इस बात का आंसर दिया ये ऑलरेडी गिव एन आंसर कि जो हमारे फ्रैगमेंट्स होते हैं वो हमारे पास कंपोज में चले गए नाउ वी हैव अ कंपोनेंट्स आप कंपोनेंट्स बिल्ड अप करते हो एंड दोस कंपोनेंट यू आर एक्चुअली कॉलिंग दैट कंपोनेंट्स तो ये आप कर रहे होते हो। अच्छा, एक क्वेश्चन और है, ये बात से आई एम सेंडिंग इट टू यू, आप इसका आंसर क्या बोलते हैं?
Okay. Can we use multiple activities in Compose? Yes, we can use that. Like if you have multiple activities, so we can use that, but it is not recommended. Normally, we go for the single activity architecture because we don't need like earlier we used to, but now we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Basit, for this beautiful talk and the awesome, I can
Welcome,
say,
sir.
the informative session that you had it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so now next we have Umair right now. Farhan, are you still here? So you can, yeah, okay. So yeah, so we have the Umair Khalid. Umair Khalid is also an awesome Android engineer and Android expert, and he's working in a Viaplay group right now in Sweden, and he has worked a tremendous amount of working with the Compose and as well as with the Compose TV. So he also, you maybe you can tune toward the Umar Khalid LinkedIn, and you can also check it out his work there. And now we have Umar Khalid. Yes, Umar Khalid. So yeah, it's your turn now. Okay. Now you can share a screen and all this stuff.
So, hello everyone. First of all, um, thank you so much, Google Developer Group, for arranging this very informative event. So, before starting, can you hear me? I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, great, great, great. So, as Ali said, my name is Umair, and I'm working in Android for more than 9 years now, and it's been a pleasure working in this technology. And thank you, Google, for keeping us engaged, learning every other day a new tech stack. And yeah, we are here to share one of the amazing technology Google recently launched, and that is Compose for TV. Yeah, so you can because we have a short time, so please take notes during the presentation, and you can ask me in the end, and maybe you can keep commenting the way you did for the previous uh, talks. So let's jump into the presentation. Yeah. So before going further, I just wanted to give you heads up on Android TV development. It's slightly different from your traditional mobile development, right? So but it's very important for the developers who are working in Android, because you guys got 80% covered, right? So you know the basics of Android, but you are you are just shy away from, you are few, you can say, items away from getting a TV developer. So I think it's a really good opportunity for you guys to learn what are the basic differences between these two technologies, TV and mobile, right? So, and why it's important. I'm I mean, it depends on the use case that for example, if I'm working on OTT platform or streaming platform just like YouTube, I am must sup- I'm supposed to have a very good TV app, because there are large number of TV devices that are working on Android TV operating system. So it becomes really important if your use case is streaming or gaming, or it's for the big screen. So it's very important. Yeah. And when we talk about Android TV, there used to be, and there, I mean, still there is a library called Leanback, and it's you can say de facto library for building Android TV UIs. And now today I will be bashing a Leanback. I will be comparing Leanback with Compose TV, and I will share my sorrows, my painful nights which I spent with Leanback, and how Compose TV solved those problems. So I can't wait to get into those slides. Yeah, here is my favorite topic: lean back versus Jetpack Compose. Lean back was launched in 2015, yeah, with Android 5, and it served Android developers for years, right? For like good 7 8 years, it's been the top library, but it was based on MVP, and it was view-based library. And if someone asks you to build a left menu in TV, for example, if you land into YouTube, you will see there is left menu. And if someone say that, hey, build a YouTube like left menu, and it was nightmare. I still remember, even the companies used to give you a home assignment to build left menu. Can you imagine this in TV using lean back? It was as much challenging as you can say, right? So um, yeah, so I mean the customization was nightmare, uh, and it was huge learning curve. For for doing a small task, you need to touch 15 files. You need to override so many properties because it was too tightly coupled, and it was all about abstraction. And abstraction was, I mean, it was hiding abstract. You can say the abstraction was abused, not used, right? Even though the library is from Google, but they still regret it. Now that is why they have a Compose TV that is entirely different architect, right? And architect was based on MVP. So when we say architect, uh, I mean, you can't use it perfectly and easily with the other architects. It was super tightly coupled with MVP. So everything you need to design, you will have to create a presenter, and then you will inject UI, and the data binding was nightmare. And then, as I said, the code was huge, huge code base that you were maintaining for a small task. Yeah, and testing was, I mean, we still have in Via Play, we still have lean back code, and and developers run away from testing because it takes a lot of effort to make it work. And covering all those 5 points, the 6 point is result of those 5 points, like developer experience. I am Android developer working with TV for like 8 good years, and I still not found the good developer experience with leanback. And we are judging these two technology based on these six points. And Jetpack Compose for TV is answer for these 6 points. It's been like year since the Compose for TV is launched, less than a year, and I have worked with this technology, and it's still in alpha. But oh boy, this is technology that's going to rule Android TV for a good number of years. And I mean, it's super awesome. I will show you the demo. Uh, so if you want to see this, I mean this before. I mean, I created a template because Android Studio don't have anything ready for Compose TV. So I created a template. You can scan this. We will share these slides with you. You can scan this, and you can land into this template that you can clone and start working on Compose TV, right? So I will quickly jump into that project. Uh, so I hope you can see the screen where I'm in Android Studio. Farhan, can you confirm, please?
Yes, we are.
Great, great. So I will quickly go through the project. I know we have time constraints, so that is why it's going to be quick. I'm sorry for that in advance. Okay, so So why Compose TV is different in terms of coding? They had a very good Compose library, and why they had to launch altogether a new library for TV. And the difference is this bad boy. This bad boy is called remote control or D-pad. So we use this for controlling TV. So you don't have a very good support in traditional Compose, the Compose for mobile. So to solve this problem, Google actually launched a separate material library for Compose, right, for TV. So you can see that this text is being imported by Material 3, Android X TV Material 3. So everything that you are going to work on this TV D-pad friendly experience, you are going to import it from Material 3, that is TV Material 3, right? So I will quickly go through the. So let's suppose we have a task that we need to design. We need to design something like this, right? A left menu with this is a very typical OTT or a streaming platform experience, that you have a left menu that you need to focus it, and you need to provide that D-pad focus friendly interactions. So we will achieve it, and we will see that how easy it is, right? So before going into that example, I would like you to go through the. I'm not sure that is that clearly visible, the where I'm currently focusing. So I'm in project structure right now. In project structure, the Gradle difference, you need to enable Compose for sure, because you are working with the Compose, uh, and you need to include these two libraries. See, we haven't imported anything from Android X, uh, a typical Material 3 library, right? So you are not going to import Material 3 library. You are going to use Android TV Material library, because this will give you the D-pad friendly components, not mobile friendly components, because you won't be able to get that cool, you know, animation or out of the box those interactions, right? So, and this is Gradle, that you need to set up the you need to import the material library, you need to enable Compose, and then you will be going into the most important file, that is the manifest file, right? In manifest file, you need to enable these two flags, right? So this will give this will give Android OS instruction that this is because we don't have a touch screen in Android TV, so we will disable this, that we don't need it, right? And then we say that we need lean back, because lean back is now part of Android OS. Somehow it's part of the user experience. The launcher is actually based on lean back, so you need to enable this feature so your app can be visible in Android TVs, right? So you do these two things, and then you set a theme that is not going to be mobile theme, it's going to be lean back theme, right? And for that you need to include this bad boy. Is still going to hit us all the way. The lean back thing is still not, we are not going to get rid of it completely, but we need it for theme. So you need to include this lean back, you need to include a material and foundation for TV. You need to set these two feature flags, and not feature flag, yeah, you can say feature flag, yeah, but these are not feature flag actually. So you need to enable these two features, the permissions, and boom, you are ready to work in Compose TV. Now I will quickly go through the use case. The task was given to us. Someone challenged us that, hey, you need to develop something cool, left menu, and now we are in No, we are giving them answer by using Compose for TV, right? So so I will go through the theme first. So in theme, this is a typical, I'm not going to go through this theme and color and type, that how you set up these. My only focus is going to be on material 3, right? So I hope other presenters were focused on Compose. They gave the overview of these things, but the only difference is, again I will say that it's material 3 coming from Android TV, not Compose, the typical material 3 library, right? So you initialize your theme, you make a higher order function of this theme, and then you go to colors, and colors will also be imported by material 3 TV. And then you go to typography, and typography is also imported by material 3 TV. And now it's time to initialize in your app. In set app content, I will see that how many things I'm going to import from as I said, that Compose TV is extension of mobile Compose, right? That means mobile Compose can still be used inside TV, but those components that requires interaction or focusable events, that need to be imported by Compose from by material TV material 3, right? So you need to make sure that anything that is d-pad friendly, that requires interaction, that must be coming from material 3 TV, right? So these rows are basic building blocks, so you don't need to import them from these are coming from Compose Foundation, right? Android X Compose Foundation. This is core foundation library, right? And this is box, and box will also be coming from foundation library. So you need to, because these are the basic structure, the containers. Your container don't really get those focus events, so we don't need to invest time on building something that is that not required any, deeper interaction. So I will go through this menu file. That if we go into the menu file, you see uh, this list. It took me like these two functions, and I was able to see this amazing uh, d-pad friendly menu, right? So I will run this application. Cool. So you see that, wow, it looks super cool, effortless design. You see that I haven't touched any file other than these two functions. So, and we are able to see this amazing TV experience, right? But when you say that lean back, mind you, you need to design fragments. You need to override so many properties in your manifest to make these things uh, working, and you still need to provide those animations and other stuff that is super manual, but it's out of the box, right? Now I will go back to the slides, and then we will break down these things. Oops, yeah, this one. Yeah, we covered this menu.kt. You can use this barcode to download this project which I was showing you, and then you can visit this menu.kt that will produce this. And before moving forward, I will quickly go through how you can create a simulator, that is TV simulator. Come here on this device manager. From device manager, create device, and you will see this amazing list of pre-built simulators. You will select Android TV, you will create Android TV, you will select device name, resolution, density. Boom, you will see this Android Studio, Android TV in your Android Studio. So it's as simple. So no rocket science. But for the preview, that how you want to see you want to see your composable preview inside the TV. So you can specify in the preview, you can specify the device will be uh, Android TV. That means if you split this into design, this is not simulator, this is compose preview, right? So you can see this app being simulated inside your preview, right? So if you don't specify device, it will be by default a pixel device that will show you mobile experience, but you are working on TV, so you need to specify the device to be TV, right? So yeah, so I will break down these things, this menu KT into you see that I have used lazy column and surface, and these are two very important mindset that you need to cover, right? Sorry for being back and forth, but you need to make context of what we are talking, right? So in lazy column, you s- you see that it's not lazy column, it's TV lazy column, right? So TV lazy columns are extension of a typical lazy column that we have in Compose, that has a special D-pad friendly features. And when we say D-pad friendly, that means when you quickly navigate through screens, this lazy column handle everything that makes it very smooth, that you cannot achieve it with the mobile lazy column, right? And the pivot offset support, that is very important for TV experience. I will not go deep into this because of the time constraints, but you still have this feature available. And Surface API is one of the most important uh, component of TV specific API, because it's not Surface API that you use in mobile, because in mobile you use it for backgrounds, you don't use it for interactions, but in TV it has a special use, right? It's used for D-pad, it's used for glow, it's used for elevation, it's used for all those stuff that makes TV special, that makes TV interactable and gives us smooth experience. Yeah, some important notes before I end this meeting. um, Make sure you import from correct material library. You can mistakenly add mobile material, so you need to make sure that you don't import things from that. You don't import buttons from mobile and you expect that it will get scale up automatically. uh, that's going to cause lots of confusion. So make sure your imports are very accurate. And some components are still missing in Android TV because this is it's in alpha, but recently they released alpha 7, which got some basic more fundamental components like checkboxes and other core components. So I will quickly conclude this. Recap. Jetpack Compose simplifies the process of building engaging TV experience, and I have gone through very quick um, example due to time constraints. Um so yeah, it's definitely the pros are there. If you have a mobile Compose experience, you can the core principle are almost similar. The only change is this D-pad, the remote control. Uh, yeah, so you can start right away with the very few changes. Takeaways: Compose solving lean back problems that we were facing due to it's tightly coupled with a few architects and lack of customization. Declarative UI helps a lot, and that's the truth. So next step, as some of you will be new joiners, when I say new joiners, some of you will be new Android developers, are supposed to be Android developers, are experienced one. So you can explore the Android docs available for TV, and stay up to date with latest advancement because it's still in alpha and it's in progress. The work is in progress. And you can also connect with me on GitHub, because I keep sharing projects, sample projects, and it's fun. We can even collaborate on some projects together, right? So I would like to thank you all for bearing me and listening to my talk. Q&A, I don't think so we have time for that.
Thanks a
Thank you all.
lot, Umair. Yeah. So thanks a lot for this awesome session. And even now, I get to know how the Compose TV works actually, how the Compose is working on the TV side. Yeah. So there is a one issue. Maybe you were sharing your slides, but it was not visible directly. So if you have slides, and you can share it right now, because
Oh,
you were referencing something about the barcode and all those stuff. So it was not visible actually. So now you
oh,
can share it.
I thought it's visible.
Actually, I didn't interview because you were in a tune, and I didn't want to
Uh,
break that ice.
I'm so sorry for that because I was presenting, but oh,
Yeah. So if it's possible, you can share it at this time. You can.
oh, yes, I can definitely share. So do you want me to share a file, or I can quickly go
Yeah.
through?
You can share it here. Yeah. I go through in a sense of that the people would know about the barcode, from where they would take
Oh
that
yes, yes,
project
yes.
and so on.
Oh yes. I will share the entire screen.
Yeah. The entire screen is actually perfect.
Uh, so I will.
Yeah. A lot of stuff.
Oh
As
yes.
being a
So,
developer.
can you
Yeah.
see the screen? Oh
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Yes. You can.
Yeah. So the difference between here I discuss the difference between Android TV and mobile development. Here I discuss the difference between compose and lean back. Here I shared the template that you can start using the compose TV from GitHub. I have worked on this, making it very easy for you guys to start. It's very basic. And here I gave the menu KT demo. Here I show you the D-pad interaction thing, and here I gave the lazy column thing, Surface API, some important notes, and the conclusion, right? But this is the most important slide. So you can scan this, right?
Yeah. So now that is fine, because the people, and even I was also wondering that where are the slides and where is that barcode. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
referencing it for somewhere else. So yeah.
I'm so
So
sorry.
thanks thanks a lot. No issue with it, but it can be possible. Even I also shared my screen, and each and everything was visible that time. That was also weird. But
Yeah,
yeah, that is a part of life,
yeah,
and we are actually working here. Okay, thanks a lot, Umar, for this informative talk, and to get us know about how the Android TV works, what is about the lean back, and so on. And yeah, and anyone have any sort of question? If we have, we can spare 5 more minutes right now, because it's a virtual. We can take for 5 minutes more. Yeah, Umar, but I got the one question from our group, our WhatsApp group, that how to get job, how to get the abroad job.
oh yes,
That is a really so that's
yeah,
a really interesting question for each and everyone. Like how you got this job and so on. So a little bit of intro, if you can
yeah,
define it in a minute.
yeah, for sure. It's very important topic that you, because sometime it can become really tricky, and you sometimes you get lucky that you land into right company asking them to give you job. uh, but the when I started getting interviews from international clients, the only change I did was I improved my GitHub, I improved my LinkedIn, and I started exploring my weakness in Android, for example, in terms of the more architectural way. And I started having because most of the time your basics, but it's hard to present those basics. So I worked on that skill, that how to present your how to improve your communication skill. That was really important. That actually changed the way I was thinking, the way I was presenting things, because you have those skills available, but it's matter of how you present them. And in international clients, they don't really pin you on things like, hey, what is the activity life cycle, and what is the difference between intent and explicit intent and normal intent. They will have a discussion with you, and they will check your mental health, that you can survive in team, you can be a good team player. So they really focus on team culture, team environment. They don't look for the technical people, right? So technical people are always there, you can even google and you can find solution very quickly. But they need team player, so they will judge you on different levels. Yeah. You are muted, Ali.
Okay, okay. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Umer, for this answer. And even we all were trying to get to know how to go abroad or how to get the job from the abroad company. So thanks a lot, Umer, for this awesome talk, and thank you.
Thank you for
Yes,
inviting.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for this, for all the people who are still here from starting to the end of this session. And we actually tried our best to present each and everything to you. What is like how to start Compose, how to build application with Compose, what would be like how to connect the Compose application with internet, with the view models, with the business logic, and all those stuff. We actually tried a lot to get you all knows about how to work with community, how to work with the controls. So I can say that uh, you all people are really awesome, and you all are still here. And even I'm actually looking at the few guys that are still here from the starting to the end of this event. So yeah, so Farhan, if you wanted to say something.
Yes, thank you guys for joining us today here. And if you have any question related to Android Seekho, you can. We have shared the link for the GTL Pakistan official Android Seekho Slack channel. So you can ask any questions there. We will hopefully, and we will answer those.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. Thank you all, and good care. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.